What's good? It's a pizza party. The Toronto Raptors win 3 straight. Scottie Barnes has a very good game. 35 points, a lot of really good stuff. RJ Barrett was awesome. The Raptors were up huge in this game. And then the third quarter happened. Tyrese Halliburton happened. Lazy defense happened. And it felt like for a little bit, the Raptors were on the ropes. It got up to about 105, 102. And it was like, uh-oh, we've seen this before with this team. This is a team that is young. Young teams have a tendency to not know how to play with a lead, not know how to close out quarters, not know how to close out games. And this team showed its inexperience and its youth at times. I think there were a lot of really commendable performances. A lot of people who are box score watching are going to think this was all about Scottie and RJ. They were definitely the best players in this game for sure. But I think a lot of this came down to team defense. I think a lot of it came down to some players off the bench who were very good. And then, you know what? It's a mixed bag because there were some players who didn't play very well tonight, and the Raptors won anyway. Sometimes you're good, sometimes you're lucky, and sometimes you play the Indiana Pacers when they're playing like trash. And the Toronto Raptors played an Indiana team that was lifeless, gutless at times. Their rotations were late. And I don't want to sour on your parade. I certainly don't want to let this was a competitive win. The Raptors moved to 6-6 with Scottie Barnes in the lineup. This includes, by the way, that buzzer beater against Detroit, where if you just don't collapse there, it's 7-5. This includes the game where you were up 6 with a minute to go against Denver, and then Scottie Barnes has the lights punched out. I think it's pretty much time to start asking a very valid question. Is this team good? Because this team still has not seen Emmanuel Quickley, Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk. They have no business winning these games. Vegas did not think they were supposed to win tonight. Vegas has not thought they were supposed to win any night. And yet, here we are. Another win. The tank is dying. A slow death, but it is dying. It seems like this team doesn't know they're supposed to be tanking. It seems like this team believes in itself a lot. It seems like this team doesn't really care about your Cooper flag sweepstakes. It seems like they are just the hardest working team in the league. And when you're going to face a team that is going to play with zero force and zero energy for the first half, you're going to run up a big lead. I do think that it is worth dissecting wins like this because it's a really great way to see what you did well to get that lead and then what you didn't do very well to piss it away. Some of the lineup combinations tonight were really bad. The lineup synergy was bad. There was a point in which the Raptors were up 20. Almost every single player on the team was plus 12, plus 15, plus 18, plus 20. And then there was one player who was at a 0, a player that we try not to talk about on this channel very much over the last couple of games, but we'll talk about it a little bit because I thought he had a very mixed game. I thought Davion Mitchell came out and had a really negative impact on the game for the first 3 quarters and was huge and very instrumental towards the win in the fourth quarter. So I think that it was a bit of a mixed bag. Karen Hall saying no pizza party. It's 2 wins in a row now. Is it 2 wins? Did I jump the gun there? My bad. Do I have to edit that out? Okay. Pizza party on Thursday. I got good news for y'all and bad news for y'all. Our post-game live on Thursday is going to be a little bit late. That's the bad news. The good news is I'm going to be at the OKC game, almost courtside, and I'm going to have a ton of awesome footage for you guys. So that's going to be a cool one. I hope the Raptors can win that game because that will be the real test. And if the Raptors play like they did tonight, they're not going to beat OKC. But if the Raptors can bottle up some of the good things they did tonight, they're definitely going to be competitive in that game. One of the things that maybe doesn't stick out to some people amidst a 35-point game for Scottie Barnes, in which he did some very good things with the basketball in his hands, off the dribble, creating for himself, first against Andrew Nembhard, then against Pascal Siakam. They switched that matchup up, then against Myles Turner. It didn't matter who they put on him. But there were some very ugly turnovers. There was a very big air ball late. There were some questionable shots. So you have to look at that and you say, okay, we're moving in the very, very good direction here. We're moving in the direction of Scottie Barnes does superstar stuff almost every single night. Scottie Barnes is making superstar level reads every single night. Scottie Barnes is not scoring like a role player. I don't know if y'all can tell. There's 150 different ways to score 35 points. There's a really hard way, which is the way Scottie's doing it. And then there's a really easy way, which is, no offense, the way Jakob does it. And those two things are not the same, because primacy when it comes to creation and load is what gets you paid in the NBA. It's what teams are after. It's why Giannis and LeBron and James Harden are worth what they're worth. It's why Kawhi Leonard was so much better than DeMar DeRozan. Because at the end of the day, if you can take 32 to 33% load and you can be a really good defender and you can be efficient with your touches and you can be a great playmaker and you can cut out those 7 turnovers that Scottie Barnes had tonight, you really are a top 5, top 6 player in the NBA. Not, as ESPN would have you believe, the 11th best player, 25 under 25, which is just a joke. And I almost did a live about it yesterday, but I'm like, you know what? We let that go. We don't feed the trolls. Okay, we're not gonna make a good point later on in this live to address some stuff that happened on social yesterday that was predictably weird, and we're going to talk about it right towards the end, because right now it's about the Raptors. It's not about social. It's not about X. It's not about any of that stuff. Okay, the turnovers were on Scottie. Were on Scottie's mind. Oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah. I'm sure he's going to look at that. He's going to look at a missed free throw. He's going to look at that air ball. He's going to look at those turnovers and say, what can I do better? Right. One of them was some sort of discombobulated spin move in which he doesn't execute and he just throws it to the other team. Then there was, he actually executed the same goddamn spin move, which is hilarious, gets past his man this time, but now he does not finish at the rim. There's a few plays like that. But man, if you are going to take this game to tear down Scottie Barnes, you have mental issues that I cannot solve for you, because he was awesome tonight. He was really good. I think the parts of it that were bad are worth studying. I think the parts of it that were great are worth getting very excited about. RJ Barrett was friggin' awesome tonight. There was a stretch in the fourth quarter where it felt like the Raptors were just trying not to lose. And then RJ Barrett comes in and boom, gets right to the rim. Boom, gets right to the free throw line. And you needed it so badly. There was a play in the fourth quarter where the Raptors are hanging on. We're going to look at it in our film study, where Ochai Agbaji dribbles, does a handoff for Davion Mitchell. He goes in, contested over Myles Turner, lays it up. That was huge. These are growing reps, growing pains for a very young team that has a lot of growing to do and a lot of healing to do, frankly. You are playing without Grady Dick and Emmanuel Quickley. Can we just put that into perspective? Forget about Bruce Brown and Kelly Olynyk. They haven't played all year. You're talking about Grady and Emmanuel. What could you do with those guys? How big an upgrade are those guys over some of the guys who are playing for you right now? It's a very, very tough thing. And maybe at some point we have to talk about the fact that the Raptors have too many middling pieces. Maybe there's too much parity between roster spots 5 through 11 on this team. And maybe what you need to do is actually take 3 of these guys, package a first round pick, and just say, if we're going to be this good, let's be all the way good. Let's give ourselves a chance in the playoffs. I've been talking about this Cam Johnson trade literally since the summer. I've been saying to the people who've been following this channel, I'm not patting my back here. You heard me when I said this team is way better than people are saying they are. Okay. And this is why, because I knew the step that Scottie was going to take. I did not anticipate the step that Ochai and Grady were going to take. I knew the step that Emmanuel Quickley was going to take, and he has barely played. I did not see the step that RJ Barrett is taking right now. So there's so many positive developments. I did not see Jamison Battle and Jonathan Mobo being positive players as rookies. Positive players as rookies. Find me rookies that are positive. Any scatter plot, any defensive scatter plot that you look at, Jonathan Mobo tests off the chart. Matchup difficulty, deflections, steals. Everything he does defensively is freaking awesome. And he's a rookie. Jamison Battle has been positive. Jacoby Walter is a work in progress, and he did not have a great game tonight. Got stuffed at the rim by Myles Turner, and then it just didn't quite work out for him. Let's take a look at what went right and what went wrong for the Toronto Raptors. Okay, so in terms of the shot chart, you'll see a clear absence of mid-range shots for the Raptors. They had one from Scottie and another one from Scottie. And that's exactly where you want this to be. And another one from Scottie. So all three of your mid-range shots were from Scottie Barnes. And that's good because he made all three of his mid-range shots, and he's actually been making his mid-range shots a lot this year. But you basically limited it to threes. And I believe that was a Davion Hail Mary. Yes, that was. So it shouldn't really count. But yes. And you're sort of mimicking the Boston Celtics, OKC Thunder. A lot of teams play this way where basically it is the stars who are taking those mid-range shots. Okay. And that's like the least efficient shot. And you want your star, who's a 3-level scorer, to be able to shed the defense. And overall, the Toronto Raptors shot brilliantly from three, 39%, although they went through stretches where it was really good and stretches where it was really bad. They shoot 54% from the field. And that was the difference, right? Because you allow 40% three-point shooting from the Pacers and you still win. And honestly, the three-point defense needs to be studied. The transition defense needs to be studied. There's going to be plenty of plays where we're going to look at where three guys go to the paint and they leave a Tyrese Halliburton wide open. Look, man, I know he's struggling. I know he put up a triple single in the last game, but he had 30 points tonight. And had the Raptors really wanted to, they should have blown this team out by 30. Every team is going to go on their run. You can always say that. But I didn't love some of the stuff that they did defensively tonight. Points in the paint, 56 points. 56 points from, it's obviously a combination of Scottie going into the paint relentlessly, RJ going to the paint relentlessly, Yak being in the paint relentlessly. The Pacers never led in this game. It was a 24-point lead. If you want to look at how this game broke down, take a look really quickly at the game cast. The Raptors blew this thing open in the second quarter. Okay. They just held serve. The Pacers started. Oh, let me just check here. The Pacers started the second quarter at 23 points. 4 minutes later, they were still at 23 points, and Toronto had built up a 15-point lead. And from that point, it didn't matter. And if you're a Raptor fan, you have been on the other side of this so many times where it's like a 5-minute stretch where the Raptors just cannot score. They cannot buy a bucket. Well, tonight, it felt good to be on the other side of that because your defense was great during that stretch and their offense was awful. And they took a lot of really dumb shots and they took a lot of, I want to say, makeable shots that they just didn't make. In terms of the box score tonight, take a look. Right, you get 13 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 steals from Pascal Siakam, who fouls out 6 fouls, picks up that technical late for talking back to the referee or whatever, trying to get a one over. Tyrese Halliburton had 30. He really had no business getting 30. I really feel like the Raptors horribly guarded him, and he was -3 in a game in which his team lost by 11. So he was pretty decent tonight by how he's been playing this year because he's been playing god awful this year. And I'll tell you this right now. If you think RJ Barrett's road home splits are bad, you should check out Tyrese Halliburton's road home splits. They're almost identical. There's almost the same gap. So Tyrese Halliburton coming up this big on the road, you can say credit to Tyrese. I will say credit to the Raptors defense for allowing it. There is no reason for that to have happened. In terms of off the bench performances, they get 15 points from Obi Toppin, 14 points from a very pesky TJ McConnell, who takes a ton of mid-range shots and really shredded the Raptors late. And it was like, oh my God, is this going to be one of those TJ McConnell games? It thankfully was not. Jarris Walker, last year's free agent pick, right? Sorry, the last year's lottery pick that every Raptor fan, including myself, really wanted back in the Pascal Siakam trade. He played 26 minutes tonight, managed 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and 0 points. Did a really great job on Jarris Walker, or Jarris Walker has pretty much become Charles Barkley from Space Jam. Okay. RJ Barrett, 29 points on 16 shots. That is efficient. He gets to the line 12 times, shoots 75%. By his standards, that is efficient. He got on the glass. He pushed the pace. He was not slow. That is good. Okay. You might see +6 and you might say, Rob, was this an empty calories game for RJ Barrett? Hell no, man. He carried some very awful units. And I don't believe that the stretches to where he was on the court and things went bad, I don't think those were really his fault necessarily. I think he competed defensively. I think he pushed the pace. He didn't drag anything. I felt like he played just really well. Okay, Jakob, 17 points, 10 rebounds. You get used to that with Yak, right? 2 blocks, 1 steal, 4 assists. Good game from him. Jacoby Walter really struggled. Again, 17 minutes. And we said it. Accountability is key. It's very key here. If you're going to struggle this much and you're not going to be like a significant positive defensively, and you're not going to hit your shots, and you're going to be afraid to attack the rim, you're going to sit. But I love that he's getting these reps because I believe in this kid long term, and I hope that he will continue to get these reps provided that Grady is still on the mend. Once Grady comes back, his role goes to the bench, and then we'll see what happens there. But I think that he does a lot of really good things. I think he navigates screens really well. And for the most part, he won his minutes. Okay. Ochai Agbaji, big 13 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, right? Big block, big block. I think it was on Siakam, or no, it was on Jarris Walker, that huge block that he had that sparked the transition. There were so many times tonight where defense sparked offense. It was the Scottie block that sparks offense. It was the Ochai block that sparked offense. And the Pacers, for their part, are one of the worst transition defenses in the league. So if they're turning the ball over, you're getting 2 points. If you're blocking them and one of their dudes is falling out of bounds, you're getting 2 points. It's just that simple. And the Raptors, I think Chris Boucher was just terrible tonight. I'm gonna just say that. I thought he was just bad. Okay, and you really do have to be bad in a game where your team wins by 11 and you're -6. But honestly, it's just the eye test. I thought his shot selection was bad. I thought he was very unenergetic. And you can see it from the 14 minutes that he played, that I don't think Darko disagrees with me on that. Okay, he was bad. There was a first play I think that I saw with him was Scottie throws him the ball and he's like Scottie just push. And he gets up the court, throws Chris the ball for the shot. And Chris just like, whoa, I don't know, I'm playing basketball right now. Cannot have games like that from Chris Boucher. Really need him to A, boost up that trade value, and B, be a valuable member of the bench, because there really isn't another player on this team that can quite mimic what he does. I'm very interested to see if Bruno Fernando will start eating into some of those minutes, especially against an Isaiah Hartenstein. The couple teams that you're going to play are actually pretty small. So I'll be very curious, against Dallas, if maybe Boucher doesn't play well, if he'll lose some of those minutes to Bruno Fernando. I thought Jonathan Mobile was awesome tonight. His plus minus is still -5 because he played with a lot of negative lineups, but 3 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. I thought he did great stuff. 3 steals was huge. Davion Mitchell, again, terrible first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. I thought his fourth quarter was very good. Like, I think he made 2 out of 3 of his baskets in the fourth quarter. Plus, he had that and one that I feel should have been continuation, and they didn't call it continuation. Whatever. Jamal Shed follows up 1-3 almost every single game with 2 threes. He hits 2 threes in this game. He goes 2 for 2. I thought he was overwhelmingly good. Okay, for the most part, I thought his defense was good. He pressured TJ McConnell. He has limitations like any rookie, but tonight I think he was the better backup point guard. And, Davion Mitchell finishes it out late. I'm not Darko, c'est la vie, whatever. It's just cool. I get it. It's the sturdier thing. Maybe a part of keeping Davion on the court was, you feel like maybe Jamal might be a little bit more turnover prone, even though they both had 1 turnover apiece tonight. Maybe it's because Scottie kind of just started to get really loose with the basketball in the third quarter, where you're like, I don't really want this to be on Scottie's conscience, where he has a 9 turnover game and he loses the game. We didn't talk about Scottie Barnes, 35 points. We're going to look at a lot of Scottie tape. He's going to be the central focus of this tape, because I think some of the stuff he did tonight was very good, and a couple things were not so great. So 35 points, 9 assists, 6 rebounds, 1 steal, 1 block, 7 turnovers. Scottie is averaging, I want to say over the last 5 games, he's averaging about 26, 10, and 9, 26, 10, and 8, something like that. It's genuinely like prime LeBron type stats. Now, of course, inflation adjusted, all that stuff, but okay. The conversation is going where it's going. Paradise Lost saying Raptors win. Absolutely. Thank you very much for the super chat here. If playing, trade the pick for a De'Aaron Fox appreciate the super chat. If playing, I don't understand this. If you want to explain it, I would be very happy to answer your question. I don't think you can get De'Aaron Fox for what you have to trade unless you're trading Scottie Barnes. Like, I don't think they want anything on your roster, to be honest, unless you're giving them a ton of picks, and they're just not moving De'Aaron Fox. So I'm not really sure I understand this, but thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. Okay, Spooky Ghost Rider. So, okay, help me understand. Am I crazy? This wasn't 3 straight, right? They won against Miami, but they lost the other one against Miami. Okay. It's one more until the pizza party. That's what it is. It's one more until the pizza party. That's what was on my brain. That's what was on my brain. Okay, let's get away from this and let's look at the film because the film is going to be super telling. The film is going to be cool. There's good, there's bad. Wade Wilson saying hit like. Absolutely, man, hit like. And if there's any callers, definitely call in. Try not to be too negative about tonight, but sure, if you got something to say, let's say it. Okay. Okay, let's start out with this play, which is right at the start of the game. And you just knew Scottie, there was a lot of stink thrown up over the last 2 days. Will Lou asks Darko Rajakovic, hey, are you comfortable with Scottie having 7 3-pointers a game since he's been back? And Darko just elite response. He says, no, I'm not comfortable at all. I want him to take more. Well, I hope Darko Rajakovic is happy because Scottie Barnes is taking everything right now. And I don't think people are correctly identifying just how much this guy's game has grown, but this stuff is unthinkable just 2 years ago. Unthinkable. Please place yourself in a time machine. Go back to Doug Smith's article. Go back to his struggles in second year. Go back to this exact Indiana team playing so deep drop against him that I felt like there was a Grand Canyon-sized gap between Myles Turner and Scottie Barnes, and Scottie would not shoot. Asked after the game, he said, I won't take those trick shots, their shots that they want me to take. I'm going to drive. And he just throw the ball to somebody else. To go from that player to a player who can pull this comfortably is a miracle. Now, I tell you, I saw it coming. I always said he's going to be a superstar, all that stuff. But let's be real. It took a lot of work to get from point A to point B, man. Work on his part, work on the Raptors' part. And this game was a coming out party in many ways, okay? Because this stuff is not easy. Andrew Nembhard is a pretty damn good defender. I'm going to say that again. Andrew Nembhard is a pretty good defender. There's a reason he's guarding Scottie Barnes because they feel he's quick enough and they feel he can get into his handle and really pressure him. And here, it's just too much space and he's too big. And this is going to go in. It's hard. It's hard to guard a player who's this strong. They used to call him Big Body Barnes. Okay. Way back when Scottie was 15, 16, they used to call him Big Body Barnes because he was a 15, 16-year-old with the strength of a grown man. And here, you see that strength hasn't really gone anywhere else. Now, this is the beauty of Scottie. Okay, look at this manipulation, right? This is that Jalen Brunson stuff. If you just absolutely just squint your eyes and say Jalen Brunson is doing this is exactly what Jalen Brunson would do in this situation. Okay, beautiful. Never projects the pass. Completely looking at the basket, even diverts the attention away to RJ, and Turner just misses it. Again, what quality of looks are you generating for your teammates? Are you creating wide open baskets or are you creating contested baskets, right? We're just going to skip over this. This is me honestly trolling. Davion gets blocked. Cool. Okay, let's just move on. Doesn't matter. Okay. Oh, I guess this is more Davion trolling. Okay. All right. I mean, it's worth noting that the Raptors had a couple of stretches like this, right? Where that's going to miss. Okay. We're just not even going to look at that. If you follow us on X, plays like this, right? Like these are the types of live ball turnovers where sometimes you throw a pass and the defense is just better than your pass. They read it, but at least I can be like, I see what you're doing. I get the idea. It's the right pass, right? I don't care as much if you get a turnover on the right pass. This is the wrong pass. This is a clearly contested window. You get in the air, so you run out of any airspace. You need to reset this. This is over dribbling, and then over penetration can sometimes lead to over turnovers. And again, turnovers happen. When you handle the basketball as a guard, even Jose Calderon, one of the most cautious players ever with the basketball, turned the ball over occasionally. Understand if you turn the ball over because it slips off your foot. I played basketball. I've turned the basketball over with the game on the line and I slipped it off my foot. It happens to everybody, okay? It's another thing when your turnovers are a result of you not seeing things. That's different, right? It's one thing when you see it a little bit slow. It's another thing where you just don't know what you're doing, okay? Where you're driving into 4 players and getting stripped. Now I have an issue. You on a fast break and the defender just is LeBron James and they recover and they block you and you turn that over, that's a different situation. There are different types of turnovers. A lot of Davion and unfortunately RJ's turnovers are not of the variety of like high process turnovers. They are of the low process turnover variety. Noble Venom, thank you so much for the super chat. I'm gonna answer it right after I get through some of this film. Okay, a little bit of defense to offense, because one of the greatest ways to spark your offense, especially against a team that is notoriously terrible at defense, is to run. And here, he's going to get this off of, and here, Jamison Battle, perfect. And I'm going to tell you something right now. Obi Toppin might be the worst defender in the NBA. He's one of the worst defenders in the NBA. I don't know why they signed him for the amount of money they did. He's very talented. He's very athletic. He is awful defensively. Every time I watch him play, he's getting cooked by somebody or another. Okay. If you recall, the Toronto Raptors last year played this Indiana Pacers team, and Pascal Siakam, if I'm not mistaken, lit them up for 36. Now this year, Siakam is on the Pacers, and Scottie Barnes lights them up for 35. I feel, and I don't want to rain on Scottie's 35 point performance. I feel like you got to take 5 points off for any career high against Indiana. I'm just saying it. I'm not trying to hate. Please don't accuse me of hating my favorite player, but this is a really bad defensive team. And they are bad in part because they employ really bad defenders, because Rick Carlisle has certainly coached many good defensive teams. He coached a great defensive team in Detroit back in the early 2000s. He coached a great defensive team when they won the championship with the Dallas Mavericks. Those were good defensive teams. Unfortunately, when your best player is not a good defender, it becomes very difficult, in my opinion, to dial it up defensively, to dial up the organizational structure and focus on defense, which is why it's so important that your best player gives a lot of a shit about defense, because watch this. Now, look, part of the reason that Jonathan Mobo is going to get this steal is because Scottie denies the pass, which I think often gets overlooked, how important it is to disrupting defense. Now, Davion Mitchell is also very, very good at doing stuff like that, okay? You want to put players in uncomfortable positions, which means that when Davion is pressuring a Tyrese Halliburton, and a Halliburton's like, you know what, Ben Mathurin, you initiate the offense. Now you have disrupted their entire offensive flow. Now they are doing something different. That play was a dribble handoff for Siakam because Scottie denies, and he did this multiple times. Pascal Siakam did not hold himself to 13 points. You may say he didn't play great. A large part of why he had 13 points is because Scottie took it on his chest to guard him like that pretty much the entire game. He got open for a few threes, no doubt, but anytime he was in the post, Scottie was like, man up. And this is my caption on this one: superstar. Now, I've talked a lot of shit about Pascal Siakam's defense going in the gutter, okay, because he has not been good for a while defensively. I don't think he played terribly defensively tonight. I think this is good defense. This is good defense. So far, good defense. Good defense, good defense, good defense, good defense, good defense, good defense. Okay, that's terrible defense. My bad. My bad. I remembered this differently. He doesn't contest. I think he might be remembering a different version of Scottie, because Scottie's got a new bag, right? Scotty's got a new bag. I don't think he expects Scottie to even take this. I don't know how closely Siakam's been watching Scottie Barnes tape. But 2 years ago, he's not taking this shot. He is not taking this shot 2 years ago. He's not taking the shot last year. I'll tell you right now, if this is 2 years ago or even last year, this play right here, let me slow it down. I'll tell you exactly what happens if this was last year. If this happens last year, number one, he's making this move a lot slower. Okay? If this happens last year, he's rolling this into a post up. So you can tell that Siakam is a little bit surprised that he just went up for this. Now, it's a tough shot regardless. It's a little bit off balance. It is technically contested by the analytics will tell you, the tracking data will tell you that's contested because Siakam was right in his airspace. Okay, cool. And again, same thing. Deny. Andrew Nembhard wants to throw this into Pascal Siakam. And Scottie's not going to let him. Now, without fouling, deny, 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 right? So that is very important. And that's a good part of disrupting rhythm. And that's how the Raptors got up. This is more Davion shit posting, Okay, let's just move on. Okay. Bang. Big three. Yes. We promised we were going to talk about the good things Davion did. This is a good thing Davion did. Now, this is a late clock situation. You're kind of hanging on the ropes here. This Davion lineup did not do very well. And this is a large part, this lineup of Jameson Battle, Jacoby Walter, Davion Mitchell, Ochai Agbaji, and RJ Barrett. This lineup struggled a little bit. Okay. They notably struggled relative to the lineup that started the second quarter. So you needed that shot. And it was a couple times where you really needed one, and Davion really got, so you can say, yeah, he was a really big part of what was wrong with your offense tonight. He also bailed you out a couple big times. So, credit where credit is due. That was a big shot, and that was not an easy shot either. Both of his shots were not easy shots. Now, this is possibly one of the more impressive plays tonight. Okay. Because so far, Andrew Nembhard and Myles Turner are probably the two best defenders on the court right now, right? They are. And Scottie is going to bump Turner out of the way. Now, we saw Turner get a huge block on Jacoby Walter, really athletic guy. We saw Turner get a huge block on RJ Barrett late. This is a professional shot blocker. What do you do with a shot blocker? Any basketball players out there will tell you, you got to go into their body. Scottie knows that. He's not scared. He's not scared. And I'll tell you right now that in my takeaways, I'll tell you what I liked most about Scottie's game. But one of the plays that really exhibited that was that. Okay. Little great dribble handoff here. It was a sequence from Scottie crossing over to the right side of the court to RJ. RJ crosses back here. Siakam goes under. Abysmal defense, right? This is just trash defense. Okay. Yeah. I was right to criticize Siakam's defense last year, and it continues more this year. He has not been good. He has been a much better player this year, but again, not good. Now here, RJ sort of stumbles with the basketball a little bit, loses it, recovers, just tips it over to Scottie. Scottie's going to make that. Siakam's going to be late. Jonathan Mobo's like, that's my best friend from when I was a kid. That's my boy. All right. Okay. This take is good stuff. It's not the most impressive thing he did tonight. This is old school Scottie. This is what he would have done in high school. Takes you 1, 2, and around, right? But it's impressive because you're doing it over 2, 3 defenders. And that's important because they're all big defenders, and they couldn't do much with him tonight. Okay. Most of Scottie's issues tonight were completely self-inflicted, just being loose with the basketball, loose with passes. It wasn't because they were pressuring. I think 3 of the turnovers were fair turnovers. 4 were just unforced bullshit turnovers. Okay. Like things he just needs to clean up to himself. Okay. Ochai. Look at that. Block. Big shit. And RJ is going to do the great thing because Scottie has had a lot of conversations with his teammates about finding him in transition. Now, Scottie is going to do the right thing too. He's not going to go into the congested place. Why? This is important. Can you guys let me know in the chat why Scottie has decided not to go into the paint, but rather to go out to the 3-point line? Can anyone let me know in the chat? I'll flash the answers. I think this would be a great time to test your basketball IQ. Why is Scottie doing this as opposed to going into the basket? Hushu saying, open up defenses for later. RJ ain't hitting that pass. Passing lanes are closed because Yak. This is the right answer. It's because of Jakob. So Scottie, once he realizes that Yak is trailing, and because Jakob Poeltl is not a shooter, there's only one place where Jakob can go on the court. There's 2 places Scottie can go on the court. Opening up that lane will likely force a miscommunication for a notoriously bad defensive team. Okay. So right now, if Jakob Poeltl cuts in, Turner becomes occupied. But because Halliburton is the weaker defender here, Halliburton will be forced to switch. So even if by some miracle they execute this correctly, and RJ's late with the pass, or he lobs it, or it's off target, and they recover, the Raptors will have a favorable position in this situation. If Scottie goes into the paint, what happens? Turner is able to guard two players. That's what happens. So you want proper spacing in transition. And I think that this is one of those smart things where Scottie breaks from the traditional habit of going to the paint, ask for a post up, which a lot of really dumb players do all the time, and instead decides, no, I'm going to properly space the court. And what happens? Exactly that. Halliburton never recovers, never registers that Barnes is open, forcing Turner with the late contest, and it's too late. And I'll tell you right now, the next wrinkle of this, if by some miracle Turner had closed him off the line, if Turner closes out properly, he hasn't killed his dribble here, right? If he closes out properly, this is a pump fake and a dunk to the basket with no help back there. Siakam is not stopping him. Yak is really good at sealing the offensive player. So this is how transition should be run. Okay, this is we're not going to talk about that today. Okay, forget that play. Let's not talk about that play. Okay, I don't care he missed. This is ridiculous defense. I agree with myself. Oh, that's a weird statement. Okay, here's Tyrese Halliburton with the basketball. Okay, now this is craziness to me that RJ Barrett is not going to go out there. Now, I understand, or I would understand, if there was somebody else back here. You know what I mean? Like when you watch this play right here, you think it's because there's like Myles Turner is ahead of the play. You have to locate the basketball. Once you stop the basketball in transition, then you locate the shooters, right? You got to protect the paint, but if the shooter or the player is not going towards the paint, you got to adjust. And I understand that RJ is pretty much doomed if he does, doomed if he doesn't, because if he closes out to Halliburton, right, who is struggling in fairness, right, it's going to be probably with Halliburton's passing, it's probably going to be pass over the defense to Mathurin going for a dunk. So it's a bit of a situation where maybe you do some more work earlier in this play, and then it doesn't become this. The minute it's 2-on-1, it's hard. But what made this worse was look at how much time they leave. Now, what are Davion Mitchell and Ochai Agbaji doing here? Why is nobody deciding to close out to Halliburton at the very least, just to get him off the line, just to scream at him, do something? You can't leave him open. And here, the Raptors are up 17. Very soon after this play, where, by the way, he misses, and I don't give a shit that he misses, because if you're a good shooter in the NBA, you just need to see one go down. And the Raptors really just don't seem to register that this defensive principle of not letting shooters get going is very important. Okay. And somehow you wouldn't have even been in a great defensive position if this rebound had gone a little bit short. So again, this is one of those plays where, okay, you say, whatever, nothing bad happened. Yeah. But that play became a symptom or became a preview into what would inevitably sink you later on in the fourth quarter. Okay, this is probably the funniest play of the game. It seems like Scottie does something a little bit viral and a little bit funny every single game. This is his viral moment of the game, okay? Finishes right around Obi Toppin, past Siakam. Now, they used to say Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan were very, very elite manipulators of the game, as in they understood the game within the game, which means they knew how to get into an opponent's head, shake them off balance, say the right things, maybe say the wrong things sometimes. There's certain guys that just sort of have that edge. They understand how demoralizing a moment like this can be. I'm going to tell you right now, this is goddamn demoralizing. Look at this. Smiling at Siakam's face. Yo, I'm going to say this. That is psychotic. And I love it. I love it. I personally, I want my franchise player to be a little bit psychotic. I like that. You know, maybe I'm weird, but okay. Now, maybe, maybe wanting all the smoke and then you don't follow it up with this, okay? Because this is bad. And this is not the first time he did this. This is the second time. Okay, this is the second time Siakam poked it away at the exact same place. The first time Scottie just kind of threw it to the defense. This time he pokes it away. So clearly, the Indiana Pacers were starting to get going. Scottie makes that huge play. Please believe me, that play did not start the momentum for the Pacers. They were already feeling momentum. But I feel like turnovers like this can absolutely really hurt your chances of closing out a game properly. Okay. Now, this is, I mean, I don't know. We're going to have to do a poll at some point, maybe in tomorrow's live to just figure out when we do a Scottie Barnes proper film breakdown or maybe a Scottie Barnes mixtape, or I don't know what we're going to do, but we need to celebrate and encapsulate this game as like a timestamp because this is a hard move. Okay. You take Siakam, 1, 2, you can finish over Mathurin. You manipulate, you kind of like change midair, and you're doing this in the fourth quarter. And at that point, he had played like, I want to say 7 or 8 minutes straight. So he had been playing for a very, very long time at that point, and he got a break like very soon after. But yeah, this was Scottie's career high. His previous career high was 32 points. If I'm not mistaken, it was against the Los Angeles Lakers. What kind of a super fan of Scottie am I that I don't know his career high was against the Lakers? He definitely scored 31 against the Lakers. Did he score 32 against the Lakers? I think he did. So, yeah, nice to know that in a in-season tournament game in which the Raptors have clearly been eliminated, that he's going to do that. This was interesting. Now, it's interesting because look at how much of the defense he's occupied here. Now, he's more than capable of playmaking out of these positions. We know that about him. But the fact that he is able to just manipulate the defense, the fact that he is able to patiently sort of maneuver around these little gaps with more skill work, with more bag work, with a better shot, this is only going to get easier and easier. So I hope that to those of you who have been patiently waiting and praying that, hey, this Pensar basketball guy has been telling us Scottie's going to be an all-star, superstar for 4 years. I think you're finally seeing some fruits of that being more than just me having wishful thinking about my favorite player. Okay. I think that's like legit happening in front of your eyes right now because this is impressive stuff. Okay. RJ Barrett getting to the line, man. Takes the foul, right? There were a couple of phantom calls today. Tyrese Halliburton benefited from like 6 extra points tonight on just a phantom call on Mobo, phantom call on Jacoby Walter. Just not cool, right? Okay, let's see how this goes. Scottie. Ah, yes, I remember this. Oh, this was not good. Okay, so here Scottie calls for the screen. Yak comes all the way from the baseline to come up. They don't get what they want. Not really sure why you would want to switch Turner. I don't understand this play at all. I think he wanted to create, a switch in which he could have been able to attack, but they didn't find the gap. And now you're at 3 seconds and you have to just force one because I don't think shooting was the goal here because I don't see why you would want to shoot over Turner as opposed to shooting over Siakam. Like it's much easier to shoot over Siakam in this situation, and Turner contests this beautifully and it results in an air ball. I believe the Raptors had 2 air balls tonight, maybe 3. So they have a few every game. This is the big play by Davion Mitchell. We have kind of flashed past his bad plays because I promised I wouldn't devote 10, 11, 12 minutes every single live dissecting his plays because it could literally go on forever. But this was a good play. So let's talk about this. This is huge. Beats TJ McConnell and then gets past Myles Turner and a contested layup over Turner. That was huge. And it was a late clock situation, just like the 3 that he hit on that pass from RJ Barrett. So couple times late. Okay, that's 5 total points of his 8 total points that he bailed out the Raptors offense. And you win by 11, right? So again, like it's not okay, Davion responsible for your win but I don't think it's fair to say tonight that had you lost, given how he played in the fourth quarter, that he would have been directly responsible for your loss. It's hard to ignore how inefficient the lineups with him were tonight, but I think there's a compounding group of issues with that one. Okay. RJ Barrett, like, you got to see this, man. There's certain plays you can see developing from a mile away. This is one of them. Okay. You got to read the scouting report. This is an easy pass to Davion Mitchell, which I understand. Maybe RJ Barrett is like, you know what? I don't want to do that. Okay, then don't do that. Wait, pull it back, pull it out. You got 20 seconds left on the clock. You got 1:08 left in the game. Had you blown this game, this is one of those plays that you come back to and you say, what the hell were we thinking here? What was the rush? What was the need to charge over TJ McConnell when you know goddamn well that he likes to do things like this and you're out of control, right? Like there's no reason to charge over him. It wasn't even like it was such a great charge drawn. It was just such an obvious offensive foul. So anyway, the Raptors close it out. They win. Definitely later on tonight, I'm going to pull together all of Scottie's tape. I'm going to create a really good mix of his game tonight because I feel like I'm going to want to remember this game. Just like I wanted to remember his San Antonio game last year, which I felt was a bit of a coming out party. It's nice to get these little windows of hope into what could possibly turn into a season in which the Raptors really do spark We the North. Okay. Armand Bassin saying Scottie with the chain. Yes, totally. This is absolutely deserving. I believe Scottie deserved the chain tonight. Let's talk about the man of the hour. Let's talk about Scottie Superstar as JT. Okay. Noble Venom. It ain't even 35 points. It's how he got it done. None of that baby hook, deep post position stuff we see from rookie Scottie. He got superstar buckets tonight. I'm so glad that you said this, man. I'm so glad that you said this because sometimes I find myself losing my mind, or I feel like I'm losing my mind when I talk about Scottie and what I see in him, right? Now, it was always obvious that he was not going to become a superstar playing the way he was playing as a rookie. It didn't matter that he could put up a triple-double or that he could put up 32 points or 31 points, 17 rebounds, 5 assists. It was all role player stuff that he was doing. It was dribble handoffs. It was accelerated dribbles where he's getting an advantage, where someone sets a screen. He kind of just does 1-2 moves and push shots it at the basket. These are not superstar things. That's not how any superstar exceeds or excels, because superstars need to be able to create advantages out of thin air. Superstars are like a walking cheat code. Okay. Superstars are like when you turn on 2K and you turn the sliders up. Superstars are supposed to do that stuff for you. Superstars are supposed to be guarded perfectly and still hit shots. Superstars are supposed to be double teamed and still make plays. That's what superstars do. Okay. Now, Scottie's a rare brand of all-star. Granted, some of you will not hand him the superstar tag until he takes it from you, and that's okay. I'm perfectly fine with it. Scottie's rare because when he does have those inevitable off nights offensively, and he's had quite a few, right? He still impacts the game in so many ways. So even when his shot is not falling, he's able to impact winning. He could help you right now as just a weak side shot blocker, and he could be tremendously positive. He could be more positive than every player on this team as just a rim running weak side shot blocker. That's how talented he is. He can do pick and roll with RJ Barrett as the roll man, where he sets solid screen after solid screen and receives pass after pass after pass and hits floater after floater after floater, and could probably notch up 24 points per game just doing that. That's the cool thing about stars. They can do it in 100 different ways. Luka can get his 50 by taking a lot of threes, a lot of midi pull-ups. The reason that this is important, the reason that the dynamicism and your shot chart should not be all in one zone. That's a left corner 3-point shooter. Well, good luck. Because if you're a left corner 3-point shooter, you're never going to be open in the playoffs. This is never going to work. Okay. If you are a mid-range guy who can't shoot threes, you're going to be way more suffocated in the playoffs and you're not going to be able to thrive. Okay. The defense will always do the trade-off. Okay. The defense in the playoffs, especially when they're able to scout you, they are going to do the trade-off game. He has a week left. We're going to push him. We're going to push him left. He doesn't do well on the turnaround jumper. We're going to push him to the turnaround jumper. He doesn't do well on the left block. He only does well on the right block. He does well with the sweeping hook, but not on the turnaround. Okay. He has a weak handle. All of these weaknesses get picked apart. And that's why role players don't do very well in the playoffs, especially when they're pushed into star roles. That's why Pascal Siakam, unfortunately, I'm not trying to kick the guy when he's down, struggled so badly in the bubble. That's why Pascal Siakam will always struggle in the playoffs as a primary initiator and a primary scorer, because he can be stopped. There are limits to his game. It's a very good game. He's a very good player. He's an insanely good player. He's a top 35 to 40 player, but he's not those top 6, 7 guys. And if you want Scottie to get to those top 6, 7, that's where the gifts start to come through, right? Because what he did tonight was very much a crossover between Giannis and Kawhi, Giannis and Kawhi, Giannis and Kawhi. If you could just take your eyes and just adjust them for a second, and just maybe if there's an app where we can just mask Giannis onto Scottie tonight, or mask Kawhi onto Scottie, there were plenty of Kawhi plays and plenty of Giannis plays to go around. Okay. And those guys are superstars. That's what superstars do. That baseline where he got triple teamed against the Heat and he found Ochai in the corner, that's a Jokic pass. That's not a normal thing for a player to be able to find in the pocket from that position, because those types of aggressive traps are designed to force turnovers. And were he a lesser playmaker, were he a lesser court mapper, were he a lesser passer, were he shorter, that would be a turnover. For Cade Cunningham, that's a turnover. But for Scottie Barnes, it's not. There are physical advantages to being a superstar, but in the end, what you do with the basketball is much more than simply scoring, right? Now, there was a bit of a halftime interview, I think, with Kayla Gray, where they talked about Scottie Barnes saying, I want to be a playmaker off the ball. Man, this is such an important thing, and such an important thing for people to really dive into and dissect and understand what he means by that. Because you see, there are certain players that are just, this is going to sound like glaze, but it's not. When you see it, when you know it, when you've been around this game long enough, you see it. Talk to any like college coach who's like a lifer, grinder, Division II. How do they feel about Scottie Barnes? When they watch him play, he's doing 150 things that almost nobody is noticing, but the geeks notice. The people who actually study this game, break down the tape, they notice. Okay. They notice the things where he fills the gap correctly he fills the lane correctly, or he's able to communicate a switch before it happens, or he's able to communicate what the next play is going to be, where he spots the baseline cutter before the defender does, and he's able to call it out to Ochai, watch. He's getting so much louder. That's all playmaking. This is like the chess, Queen's Gambit. This is Scottie's Gambit, He's just moving the chess pieces around, which is why the Yak turnover airball thing was so confusing, because that just didn't seem like something that he would have wanted to do. But these are also growing reps. What I'm saying is, when you get into the playoffs, you need a guy to be able to generate advantages out of thin air. You need a guy who can, from a standstill, force a double, split the double, punish the double, finish over the second layer of the defense. And once he can start to do that predictably, now we start to get into, okay, this is a real megastar, all-star, superstar, whatever. Now, most superstars, once they get to that level of dissecting the first and second layer of the defense, now have to learn how to play make out of those positions. That's what Giannis had to do against the Raptors. When the Raptors built the wall, he couldn't make them pay. He charged over the wall. He forced stupid shots over the wall. He didn't find his shooters, or he did find shooters and they didn't make shots, but he was a limited playmaker. Kawhi Leonard remained for years a pretty limited playmaker. He didn't see advantages. He would be great at scoring. He was a great bucket getter, great defender, but he didn't see advantages nearly as well. DeMar was a very weak passer early in his career, advanced into a great one later into his career. There's a lot of really good players that don't spot advantages, but Scottie will never have that problem. He will never have that problem. So Darko Rajakovic, earlier in the season, he talked about building a house. He talked about a blueprint. First, you put in the basement, et cetera, et cetera. Well, if Scottie Barnes is a house, right, and you're putting in the basement and all that stuff, well, I got news for you. The roof is done. The windows are done. The seal is done. The backsplash, the kitchen, all of it is done, right? You just need to put in like new flooring. There's like some base level shit that certain 17, 18-year-olds understand, like on the highest level, that he still can't quite put together. The handle is an issue sometimes. Sometimes the footwork on the gathers can be an issue. But once that's done, he doesn't need to fill out all that other stuff that all these other guys had to figure out. Paul Pierce, Vince Carter. He doesn't need to do that. His brain is already there. His brain is 16 moves ahead. Those guys will never see the game the way he sees the game. So when you start to really say, okay, well, how quickly could this become something like, oh shit, he's like a top 10 player in the league? Well, if you recall, in my preseason ranking, he was the 14th best player in the league, and people laughed me out of the gym. People said I was an idiot. But right now, he's playing like a top 15 player in the league. Games like this, games against Detroit, these games are not normal games. Players don't have these games, especially with goggles, while adjusting, while rusty. What could he potentially end up doing later this year? Could he have a 50, 12, and 20 game? Yes, he can. Yes, he can. Because right now, that seems like a pipe dream, but it can absolutely happen for him now. Could he average 25, 9, and 9 this season? Yes, he can. If he pushes for it, yes, he can. Okay? I feel like I'm Barack Obama right now. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yo, you haven't seen anything yet. This is nothing. What did Brian say last year? When his trainer, Brian Macon, came on, he said, what did he say? This is 15%? That was last year. This is 15%. He told me by next year, you'll see 50%. This is, I think, what he was talking about. This game right here. This is 50% of Scottie Barnes. This right here, this defensive monster, this guy who can shut down half the court by himself, this guy who can find his teammates, playing with notoriously terrible spacing, by the way, awful spacing. You think Jason Tatum could have done more than Scottie Barnes did tonight with the teammates that he has? Do you understand? Like, everything comes down to the base level of understanding of basketball. The wider angle, the easier attack. Okay. The wider angle, the wider the gap, right? The wider the gap between the players, the easier the attack is what I'm saying. If you can create a gap of Kristaps Porzingis at the top of the key, Scottie Barnes popping up at the pinch post, Derek White on one side, Drew Holiday on the other side, Scottie Barnes is going to have 30, 10, and 10 every day on the Celtics. It would be like with his eyes closed. It's very easy. You've got great defenders, means more rebounds. More rebounds equals that. You've got great shooters, that means more assists. And you got more space, which means more points. It's very simple. Doing this right now with teammates like Davion Mitchell, who is not being guarded really. Okay, he did get guarded on his 3 tonight. Credit where credit is due. Doing this when you have negative spacing around you, doing this when you have Jakob Poeltl, doing this when you have multiple rookies playing with you. Jonathan Mobo, y'all know I love Jonathan Mobo. He's making threes. He's not being guarded from 3. And I don't think he's going to be guarded from 3 until maybe next year, unless he proves that he can shoot them at like 37%. Okay. So you're playing with a lot of negative spacing. You have not seen the best of Scottie. The best of Scottie, I assure you, includes Grady and IQ on the court. It 100% does. That's the best version of him. The best version offensively is with proper spacing and vertical stretch spacing around. Now, right now, Scottie's doing what he always does. He's taking a lot of threes. Why? Because that's what you're missing from your lineup. You're missing 3-point shooters. So he's using this time to hone up his 3-point shot. And some people want him to get into the paint. Well, I hope tonight was a sobering reminder that he is not trying to become Draymond Green. And he's not trying to become Clint Capella or Tyson Chandler or any other version of hustle big, whatever. Y'all remember in Scottie's second year, I got really, really mad at the Raptors show because they kept saying like how Scottie was best at center. And that's when Blake Murphy came on and we got like super heated. And like, I think it was a very respectful discussion, but ultimately that entire thing was stop pushing this bullshit that he's a center. He's not, he's a wing. And right now it's very obvious he's a wing. He's a guard wing, but it wasn't so obvious 3 years ago. It takes vision to see past the obvious. And I'm not victory lapping on Scottie. I think we can all be genuinely proud, whether you're one of his detractors or one of his big time supporters. I think tonight was a huge thing. Let's talk about the Raptors and what this means for them, because I think that is a really, really important part of this equation. Okay. The important part of this equation is that the Toronto Raptors are winning, and the Raptors have a lot of home games this month. They have eight home games. Okay. Let's take a look here. at this. The Toronto Raptors have, make this bigger. The Raptors have, okay. Next up, we got OKC. I will be there 7:30 Thursday, which means our traditional 10 o'clock game, post game will be delayed till about 11:10. Okay. Then you got Dallas on the 7th. That's on Saturday. I will be on playback most likely on Friday, tentatively, pending a meeting. So y'all can watch a game with me. I think it'll be a Lakers game. That'll be cool. Monday, December 9th, you got New York. You're going to find out who you are in the next 3 games because this is tough. You got 3 good teams coming in. And by the way, they know you've won 3 of 4. Now, everyone's on red alert. Now, they're not going to come in sleeping on you. They're not going to underestimate you. I mean, who knows? They might. But OKC is a disciplined team. They're a good team. They're a physical team. And oh, by the way, they are a team that is absolutely designed to shut down Scottie Barnes and RJ Barrett. So I don't know what the Vegas spread or whatever is going to be for that game, but expect it to be like -14, -13 or something like that. Because if the world goes as it's supposed to go, the Toronto Raptors are supposed to get smoked by the OKC Thunder. The Dallas Mavericks, who I believe will still be without Luka Doncic. I'm not really keeping up with his injury. They've been playing really well. They've been playing great, and they've got a lot of good things. I do think Dallas is beatable, more beatable than OKC, and I think New York will be a great test here. If by some miracle, okay, you are able to go 3-4 over your next 4, that's OKC, Dallas, New York, Brooklyn, right? If you can go 3-1 over that stretch, lose to OKC, win against Dallas, win against New York, win against Brooklyn, I think you've saved your season. I think the East is just that far gone. I think you at that point will be that incentivized. And I think at that point, you have to have some very, very hard conversations about how you've gotten here, what this means. And trust me, you will not be able to stop this. Nobody will be able to stop this. Okay. Now, let me give me a W if you saw that Will Hardy play Utah versus the Lakers, where Colin Sexton has a wide open layup. Well, it felt wide open at the time. I don't know if Anthony Davis is going to block it, and it's 1.5 seconds to go, and Will Hardy calls the timeout, and the Utah Jazz, I believe, were up, were down 1, and they would have made that, right? That's embarrassing. Now, the optics of it notwithstanding, if any other team had done that, not the Jazz or not the Wizards, I think most people would have said questionable decision. Because the Jazz do it, it's very unethical. So right now, you know, you may not have like the entire city behind you. I certainly feel I can experience maybe there's not a tremendous amount of momentum and support for the Toronto Raptors right now, because I think that there has been just a lot of maligning, pushing by the media that, hey, this team is half baked. They don't have a real star. They need to tank for Cooper Flag, et cetera, et cetera. But I think to some of us, you know, who are diehard Raptor fans, I think we've seen a star here, and we're seeing the makings of some co-stars. I think we're seeing some makings of some very good young players. I think if you're a team that is this depleted and this young, and you are winning in the NBA, the hardest league in the league, the hardest league in the world, you've got to take a hard look and say, maybe we have something here. These are not fake wins. These are not fake wins. Tonight was hard earned. I mean, the team did not play well. Miami did not play well. Okay, cool. These are not the 2 wins I'm rating. I'm not going off the deep end on this one. I'm not like, oh my God, this team is a great contender, blah, 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 blah. But the next 3 games, now you are riding a win streak. So you're motivated. You're motivated to keep winning. You're motivated to keep this going. Can Scottie Barnes replicate this type of performance against the defensive pressure of a Lou Dort, a Cason Wallace, guys who get into you, like really get into you and can guard, Jalen Williams, Isaiah Hartenstein? The OKC Thunder are a phenomenal team, like a really good team. Alex Caruso. Now, if history has taught us anything, this is the game that Scottie gets up for. It's the Indianas and the Miamis and the Charlottes that he sleeps on. It's the West leading type of teams, the best team in the league, the championship favorites. Those are the teams that he gets up for. So let's see. Let's see who shows up. Let's see who shows up on Thursday. Let's see how they show up. Let's see if you're competitive. Let's test it. You're not catching anyone off guard right now. You just smoked the Indiana Pacers, and the OKC Thunder just saw that. You beat the New Orleans Pelicans. Nobody cares. Okay, fine. But you meet the Miami Heat. You beat the Indiana Pacers. You have a winning record at home. You have a 500 record with Scottie Barnes. They're not sleeping on you anymore. Okay, I'm not saying they're coming out here thinking like it's game 7. They're not doing that, but they're gonna show up, and they're gonna punch hard. I want to see how you respond. I want to see how you respond to that pressure. I want to see how many turnovers RJ and Scottie have. I want to see how Davion holds up, potentially against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Is he able to force Shai into an off night the way rookie Asar Thompson was able to force Shai into an off night last year? This is not an infallible team. At the end of the day, it's still basketball, and this is still human beings. You have cold nights. If you play hard, you'll be competitive against the OKC Thunder and probably lose by 6 or 7 points in the fourth quarter. But if you get smoked by them, I think that will be a little bit telling as well. Then you have a big test against Dallas, in which I think you will absolutely face a team that is at least beatable. And you should be getting Grady back at some point too. So that'll be very interesting to see how they adjust him back, how they adjust Emmanuel Quickley back at some point later this month. As you start to get healthy and you start to pile up these wins, don't be surprised you look up one day and you're 20-23 and you're getting closer to the deadline. And now we got to have some real conversations about reinforcements. Now we got to have some real conversations about, you look at this team, you look at the East right now, and you say, who are we scared of right now? Because if we're scared of Orlando, pull the plug. If we are scared of Milwaukee, pull the plug. Because you shouldn't be scared of those teams. You shouldn't be scared of anybody, to be completely honest with you. But you should want to test yourself against your peers. You should want that. Winners want that. Winners want to go up against the best. Winners want to make the playoffs. The fact that you have a whole bunch of people who've done nothing but win their whole lives, and you've organized them all into one locker room and thought you were going to tank, is crazy. You're not going to be able to tank properly. Made it clear since the beginning of the year. Injury, no injury, it's very difficult to tank with Scottie Barnes in the lineup. I said it all freaking summer, man. He's too good. You're not going to be able to lose games like this against, mediocre teams at home. At least you're not going to be able to lose games like this. Okay. Again, as I mentioned earlier, Denver game, Detroit game, those two games were right there. You're right there. Okay. So you have a super soft schedule in January. We've talked about this numerous times. January, February, you go on past there, you catch up. If you get to 20-22, you could win for 50. You could win 47 games. If you make up steam and you get to 500, like really, you could be a 47 to 48 win team. At which point, goodbye lottery pick. Shit, goodbye top 16 pick. You're picking in the 20s or maybe 19th. You're picking Jacoby Walter range again. And some people are going to be sour about that, but I don't think you should be, because again, this was always going to be the year with no consequences. This is the year. This is a free year. It's a free year to figure out who your players are. It's going to be great to figure out who they are against good competition like OKC and Dallas and New York, and teams that have the personnel to actually guard you, teams that have the size. You're not beating up on Pascal Siakam. You do this against OG Anunoby. Now we can talk, Scottie Barnes. We can really talk. You put up 35 points against Pascal Siakam and Obi Toppin and Myles Turner, which is like, okay, cool. They're NBA players, but no one is confusing those guys with great defenders. Okay, go do this against Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby. Go do this against those guys. Let's see what we can do. Okay. Now, in fairness, just so I don't mislead anybody, the Knicks have not been a great defense this year. They are struggling mightily. But one-on-one against an OG Anunoby is difficult. It's always going to be difficult. It's difficult for every star in the league. So Scottie is going to be tested. He's going to be tested against a guy who knows his game better than he knows himself. Okay. And that's when you find out who you really are. And I think at that point, you'll have some difficult questions, as I mentioned: consolidation, roster. There's a lot of talk about Bruce Brown. Okay. What's Bruce Brown worth? We don't see any callers here. That's pretty cool. That's perfectly fine. Did I forget to post the link? I didn't forget to post the link. Cool. No callers. Perfectly fine with it. Hold on. Okay. There was a talk with Jake Fisher, between Jake Fisher and Blake Murphy and those dudes on the Raptors show, where they were talking about Bruce Brown. What is his trade value? How difficult is it to trade a guy with a $22 million contract? What might be available out there for Bruce Brown at the deadline or whatever, right? Now, personally, I think there are a few teams that could really use him. The issue is the contract. The issue has always been the contract. I think if you go back to last year, the issue was the contract. Fisher, and I guess the conclusion from that most people drew was the Raptors could be looking at a couple of seconds for Bruce Brown. At which point, you certainly could also explore the alternative, which is just signing him to an extension, because his contract value is just that bad. But I do believe that if they sign him to anything north of $7 million or $8 million, this is just going to turn into another Ken Burch situation. I don't think Bruce Brown has earned 10% of his contract since signing it. I'm not necessarily enamored with the idea of signing a 28-year-old, somewhat undersized combo guard forward. I like his positional versatility. He's obviously, close with Scottie and all that stuff. We love his cowboy hats, but I think if you can get a couple second rounders for him, I think his role has been pretty effectively replaced by Ochai Baji. Hey, we got FA. FA, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing? Long time.
Long time. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm great, man. I was like, damn, are FA and Paul gonna call in? Scottie's career high. Y'all gonna call in?
I've been watching from the sidelines, listening to listening to all your stuff. Pretty good work, man. Thanks.
Yeah. How did you feel about today's game?
I was watching the 8 report, right? We're happy that Scotty had a career high, but he's in the tank zone. But I'm like, you know what? I think this team is too good to tank, right? It just gets to the point you're like, you know what? You guys just go for it. Maybe they can go into the plane and make some noise. And the good news is that the young players are really developing, and Scotty is taking the next step. So it's a win-win for us.
Mm-hmm. Chaim Dirk saying FA got to do his victory lap on Ulrich.
So
He's
there's
been
no.
awesome, man.
It's not even orange to Jacoby. We're on live right when we drafted Jacoby, and I really like him. So
Yes, I was still drying my tears about the Eve Misi at the point. I was like, yeah, no, Eve Misi.
it makes it like the
Eve has
other.
been amazing.
He's amazing, man. He's amazing, but I like Jacoby Water, right? He
Me
has
too. Me too.
he has the mid range, the inside game. He's once he gets stronger, and I watched your video about him. I think you really got it, man. Thanks.
Yeah, I think the thing with I don't think I was too I don't think I was too high on Eve Misi. I think I had Eve Misi exactly right. I had him like 10th, 11th, 9th throughout the process. I think where I was wrong was I should have had Jacoby a little bit higher than him. It's just because the playmaking confused me at
hmm
Baylor. Like, he seemed to have tunnel vision a lot. He didn't seem to process the court very well. And then when I saw his link tape, I was like, oh shit, this is much better. What happened to him at Baylor? And then I started thinking about Baylor, and I was like, that's the college system. That's their system. You know what I mean? Like, that's their system. Like, sometimes systems require guys to be more playmakers, more scorers, etc. So yeah, I felt much better about him once I watched high school tape. Is Ironically, it's the same situation as Grady. It was like, watched more tape, felt better about it. I was like, fine, the Raptors clearly knew what they were doing. So
and that's what this guy is facing at Baylor too right now, right? BJH comp too, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
the
No, I mean,
system.
look, I understand the tank. I understand that there's a lot of people that are just kind of subtly rooting for losses. I think Thierry Fontaine, who's like often a commentator here, he messaged me when the Raptors were down, I want to say up 3, and he's like, "Man, if the Raptors blow this," and I just said, "LOL, I don't care." Like, I'm like, like those professors who have tenure.
hmm
I'm a professor who has tenure right now. I don't care, bro. You get an A, you get an F. I don't care. Show up to my class. I don't care. I get paid either way. Because for
Yeah,
me,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
but the draft is so deep. Like the top three, right? I'm wishing that. Imagine if we have Ace Bailey with Scottie Barnes. Whoosh. Just imagine, right? Not even like everybody loves Cooper Flag, but I'm higher on Ace Bailey feat with Scotty than Cooper Flag. Im-
I
Imagine,
was, I was, I was curious if you're going to do the
imagine
Brandon Miller thing
the
again.
joke. The joke is like Denver, it's like Denver Nuggets, pretty much. Scotty passing it to all the shooters around him, Grady Dick, Jacoby Water, then Ace Bailey. Whoosh.
But can you think about what a great defense Cooper and Scotty would form together? It would feed families. It would feed generations. Like my
Yeah,
children's children would eat off of the defense that these two dudes like basically create. Like I feel like
but
if,
look
if
at
they
what
get the
Boston
first
Celtics
overall
is
pick,
doing.
if they get the first overall pick and they pass on Cooper Flag, I'm gonna riot. I say it right now. I will riot. I will, I will make 100 lives that day.
I don't think we're gonna get the first, probably second or third, right? And I
How are we getting the second or third, bro? We just won like 3 out of 4. Like,
yeah, yeah, but the next 3 4 games is gonna determine where we really sit, right? Because we're playing some really good things. If we win 3 out of the next 4 games, then like, you know what, go for it.
mhm.
Because whether you like it or not, right? I see all the folks complaining about Darko. Darko is a really, really good coach. He's really developing the young guys. Like seriously.
Okay, so tell me this. Which of the young guys do you feel he has developed the most? I'll give you some options. Number 1, Grady Dick.
I think
Ochai
let me answer it before. I think it's Oshibaji.
Really?
Yeah,
I don't think it's Ochai.
I think so. Look at where it's coming from last. There was this video before the season started, right, where he was working one on one with Oshibaji about his shooting. And it got on, and the video went on Twitter, went viral, and all the comments people were saying was like, "Oh, that how can you still be teaching this guy how to shoot, how to place his foot in his 4th year?" Hmm? But look at the magic that worked
He
out
wasn't
right now.
teaching him how to shoot. He was adjusting his shot
Exactly,
for him.
as it was adjusting his positioning, the release and everything, right? But obviously, look at his percentage now this year. It's like wow.
No, I agree with you. I don't think he was really as bad as he was made to look last year. I think part of him being bad last year was largely a construct of like IQ looking bad initially. I think first of all, he's developed everybody. Like let's just be clear
And I
about
think
that.
he did well when he was at Kansas, right? Kelly Olynyk, I think one of the interviews said at Utah they did not really develop Oshai Baji, that he wasn't developed at all. But look at the difference between when he was at Utah and now that even look at RJ Barrett too. He's developed in Toronto. Everybody pretty much. And if you watch his post game interview today when he was talking about Scotty, right?
Today,
Following yeah,
it's already
following
up.
the yeah.
Cool. I'll
Well,
pull it up.
I think I was watching it on NBA League Pass. I don't know if they've posted it, but
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
hmm Well, before this interview, he said, yeah, this when Scotty shot 7 shots, like that's not enough. I want him to shoot more. Then today he said when Scotty shooting like that really helps Scotty because he becomes more assertive and he's becoming more of a leader. That he's not even looking at the 35 points that Scotty scored today. They're looking at how the mid range, how he controls the game, and how he's helping other people develop that. Scott is really, really developing that way. So I think like everybody has developed right from where we started. And look at even this guy himself, what's his name? Jama Shed, right? Nice 3 point shooting. Is shooting threes. Even Mobo, that was a point guard before that. They didn't allow him shoot anything in college. Now, apart from this game, right, he's made like 3 threes in the last 3 games. So you can see they're all developing, right? So we're rebuilding, but we're developing players, and it's gonna get to the point where you develop enough talent that you start winning a lot of games and you can start making noise.
I think the player that he's made the most impact on. Now, in fairness, he's made a great impact on Emmanuel quickly. He's finished. He's fixed up a lot of his finishing issues at the rim. He's made a great impact on RJ Barrett. He's completely cleaned up his shot diet. It's all
Hmm.
threes and layups now. Plus, he's really advanced RJ as a playmaker,
Yeah.
and he's getting him to buy in defensively. I think he has really done a great job with Jakob,
Oh
advancing him
yeah.
as a playmaker.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Again, we don't think about Yak because Yak's 28, but Yak is like defensive regression aside, he's been much better offensively this year than probably any year of his career. But I think his biggest contribution is Scottie.
Hmm.
The, again, the numbers don't show it, but the process of offense shows it. For Scottie to go, even last year when he became an all-star, how did he become an all-star? It was a lot of catch and shoot stuff, man. It was a lot of catch and shoot stuff. The vast majority of his offense was coming off of catch and shoot, roll up post ups. It was little dribble handoff stuff. He was doing a lot of what RJ's doing right now. It wasn't like prime, like driving of offense stuff. He wasn't the point guard. He wasn't handling like 85 possessions. That was on Dennis Schroeder. The gap between last year and this year, again, by the numbers, it's nothing. 28, 8, 20, maybe last year, this time he was 21, 8, and 5. And this year he's maybe 22, 9, and 7, something like that.
No,
Maybe
no,
not a
but
big
but
deal.
but you're
No,
not going to look at it from those numbers too, right?
you should
Because
never look at it from those numbers because
y-
the way he's doing it has changed completely. And I'm not saying, oh, he has one quarter where he does it like a star and he has 3 quarters where he does it like a role player. There's no quarter where he's doing it like a role player. There's
no,
no
but
role
but
players
you got
helping
to
his
look
game
at
anymore.
before Scotty got injured, right? And when he got injured, when he came back, it took him like 3 or 4 games before he got his feet like really wet. You look at the last 5 6 games.
Mhm. Yo,
It,
Paul, what's up?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
yeah.
Oh, you're the different Paul. Okay,
Okay.
I'm
Oh no,
sorry.
I'm a Paul
I
B.
thought you were FA's brother. I'm so sorry. I read Paul and I was like, okay, my bad.
You can keep this part. I'll make another
I
brother.
could be FA's
Okay,
brother
cool,
tonight. I don't mind.
Yeah,
cool.
we can have to. We
What's
can
good,
have.
Paul?
So let me finish what I was saying,
Yeah,
right?
go
But if
ahead.
you look at the last 5 6 games, right, Scotty is literally averaging 26 points, 10.3 rebounds, and 8.8 assists.
That's crazy.
Those
That's
those
LeBron.
numbers are all NBA numbers, pretty much.
Those are not all NBA numbers. Those are MVP numbers.
Thank you. Mhm.
Because let me be clear about something. When the media started gassing up Pascal Siakam's MVP, his numbers were worse than those.
Yeah.
So, this is just worth saying. Like this shit is, and Scotty's a way better defender. So if you're gonna point to what he's turning the ball over more than Siakam was at the time, and he's shooting worse, well, he's playing much better defense. So
Well, it literally shuts down Pascal today, right? And that is one. And secondly, Scotty always has another gear. When Pascal is playing well, right? I don't want this to be against Pascal, but they're 2 different players. But Scotty can take his game up another notch when he wants to.
do you remember when I think last year at this time it was controversial to say Scottie Barnes is better than Pascal Siakam? Do you remember that? It was
Yeah.
controversial. I was a hater for it. I'm so salty sometimes. I gotta say, I think I need to go to therapy to deal with Raptor fans, man.
You know what? I was on one of those spaces, right? When we're talking after the trade, I was like, you know what? When they're like, oh, my side got nothing for it. I'm like, you just got to wait and see, right? You don't just judge a trade by just few games after the trade. Wait and see. We've not even picked the 2026 pick, which the way Indiana is playing right now, that's obviously looking good. But looking back, right, you have Jacoby Walter, who I think is going to be really good player. Let me not use the word great yet. Then look at Osha Abaji too, right? So then for the 2026 pick, then forget about the OG trade. That's another really great trade.
Right. There's 5 young players, whether it's high lottery picks, low lottery picks, mid firsts, it doesn't matter. This team has shown an ability to find It's not even find. Fuck find. Forget find, man. It's develop. Okay.
But apart from the
Jameson
develop,
Battle.
right? Even the find, right? You know, you
No, no,
said
no,
it
no,
in one
no,
of
no,
your
no.
life. You said it in one of your life last year that last draft, right? The really good GMs are gonna show themselves in the last draft. And Masai did.
No, and I'm so glad that you brought that up because I 100% agree with that because it is the less obvious drafts, right? Where you find the value, but it's much easier to find value when you already have a system that you understand is going to unlock certain types of players. You know exactly what you need. Defensively, you know you need a Mobo. You understand the value of Walter in your defensive and offensive scheme with movement shooters and guys who can slip screens this way. Jacoby Walter is a dream fit for the Raptors offense.
I think
Jonathan
so too.
Mobo, Jamison Battle, like these guys, they fit. Now, where were they in summer league and where they are today is night and day. It's
Mm-hmm.
night and day. So you could have the nicest car, you don't change the oil, you don't clean it, it's gonna look like a piece of shit within a year. You don't fill it up, you don't. I don't know jack shit about cars. I don't know why I keep going into car analogies. I always expose myself as a dumbass when I talk about cars. But my point is that the Raptors have like they have a cheat code. This development staff is a cheat code. Now, I'm not saying they're miracle workers, and I'm not saying that, any bum is going to come off the street and become an all-star with the Raptors. What I'm saying is, if you've got talent, this staff is going to get it out of you. Now, we saw with Malachi Flynn that sometimes they're not going to get it out of you, and then you're going to be out of the league. Okay? But if you got it, so Davion Mitchell, someone that I've been notoriously low on, someone who just blocked me on X, not happy with me right now. No problem. If he has any level of scoring upside, he will show it with this situation. This is the ultimate mirror on the wall. This team holds a mirror to your fucking soul.
Even Malachi Flynn that you mentioned was developing until they traded him, right? If he was drafted under this coach, I think it would have been a different situation. Period.
He's
Look at what's happening
he's smiling in the G League now. So
look at what's happening in the Wizard right now, right? And you said it before that this is not the best situation for Koulibaly, right?
No, it's not.
It started well. Now it's kind of stinking it because they're not really developing players and they're in a losing system. So that's the challenge with team.
How do you get motivated when Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma on your team?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, Paul, what's up?
That's Paul B. I've been listening to you guys and respect it. You guys' insight is top notch. But I'll say this: I'm not really a tank type of guy, but I understand the philosophy. But with this young team, I think we got some parts where we can really build upon. Healthy, we're probably a 6-5 seed right now. Do people like that, knowing what's coming in the draft next year? Maybe not. But with a couple trades, maybe get some draft capital. I want to ask one question. What team out there, what organization out there is developing players in the last 2-3 years at the rate? Maybe Orlando. They've done a pretty good job. Memphis, without the injury, they've done a pretty good job. But I think what Mr. to do, he had to clear out some players. I didn't like the Norm Powell trade, but I understand what happened. And going forward, what do you guys think about our trajectory at this point concerning our young players? They play great, knowing that other teams are. I look at other teams and their young players are looking at the Raptors like, damn, I wish I got drafted north of the border, because that team gives us a chance. Delano Banton is balling right now in Portland. What do you guys think?
I think you're right about those teams that you called, right? I'm not going to put Orlando there because Orlando, they've been picking like lottery picks. So those are easier talents to develop. But OKC, Memphis is really tough up there. They really, really pick good players. Look at the guy that they picked that's on top of the rookie board right now. But in terms of Toronto, right, this wasn't the case with Nick Nurse. Let's be clear. We did not develop with Nick Nurse. Look at what's happening in Philly right now. Nick Nurse is a coach for veteran. So say whatever you want to say about that coach, his rotations and things like that. he's really, really developing the players. But in terms of tanking, right? I think if you're winning, you just win and just forget about tanking, because if you're gonna draft well, this draft is really, really deep that you can get really, really good player in the first round. You have that Canadian guy Will Riley that nobody talks about, the guy from Maryland, Derek Quinn, that's breaking out. Then you have Ben Saraf is there. There's so many players. So I'm
I
not
get,
really worried.
I
If we're
get
going if we're
draft.
not if we lose like the next 4 5 games, then I'll like go for it to get the top 5 pick. But if not, then middle of the pack is fine.
I guess the question is, if this team was healthy out the chute, everyone bought in, and knowing the East has probably been the weakest it's been in a long time, where do you see this team? And
I think the counter to that, I think it's more of in terms of the health, right? If Scottie was healthy, it would have been a different situation. But if the whole players were healthy, then the rookies wouldn't have developed, because you have like Kelly Olynyk and
I
the rest of
disagree with
them
that.
playing.
I disagree with that.
Eh,
So
I
here's the
think.
thing. So
Go
I
ahead.
think yeah, just give me a second here.
Yes.
So FA took over the show. FA is like
Sorry.
this
No. Go ahead. Go
FA's
ahead.
corner now.
I've not been here forever, so let me have some more time. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead. Finish your thoughts. Sorry.
So what I'm saying is, a lot of people have this fixation on playing time in games, right? They think that's the way that Jacoby's going to develop, but Jacoby's been developing while he's been not playing. Emmanuel quickly developed while he wasn't playing. A lot of people say, "Oh, Scottie Barnes injured his hand last year." They don't realize how much he developed after he injured his hand. See, great organizations develop 24/7. 24/7. They are constantly building because they realize time is of the essence and they don't waste time. They're developing your mind, they're developing your interest, they're developing you as a human being. They're giving you books to read, films to watch, plays to watch. They're trying to get you to work on things even when you're rehabbing from an injury. Darko does play groups. You know, it's a big, big thing. I've talked about it many times where in Europe, we do a lot of 3-on-3. 3-on-3 is very, very good to develop your basketball IQ. And I frankly think more teams should do it because it is the right way to develop young players, is teach them 3-on-3, break down, stop the practices, allow them to play. Just because you're not playing in the game doesn't necessarily mean you're not developing. So Jacoby Walter would have developed whether he played in the G League, whether he played in play groups, whether he played, if he played overseas. It doesn't matter because the Raptors have this very dedicated focus
Yeah,
because I think Darko is like one of the best development coaches in the league, bar none. And that was his reputation coming in, that they are going to develop no matter what. Now, Scottie last year when he
that's
got injured,
been
he
the
developed
Raptors.
he developed his voice. He developed his leadership. He developed his, for sure his game. He was ready to come back 5 games with left in the season, but the Raptors were out of the playoffs, so it didn't matter at that point. He could have come back for sure. But while he was away, they didn't let him just lag. They had him in coaching meetings. They had him talking to his teammates. They had Garrett Temple in his ear. This is such an advanced and nuanced process. And so that's where I disagree with FA that, like, okay, well, if these guys were healthy, no, if they were healthy, these young kids would be developing in play groups and in the G League,
I agree.
and they would be probably a little bit further behind, maybe, but they could also be further ahead because right now Jonathan Mobile might be playing 15 minutes, and in the G League he might be playing 40 minutes or
Oh,
35
that's
minutes.
How
fair
about
point.
the team itself? Where would we be in the standings, though? I get it. Development is probably the best thing that's needed for this team because homegrown talent is always the best. However, we have some key players, proven players in the NBA, quickly at the point. I mean, Davion and Shed, God bless their souls, but quickly hitting a deep three. Maybe this game is done at 3 minutes instead of the last 1 minute. Kelly Olynyk, he's a 6'11" guy. Bruce Brown, he's got some IQ when it comes to the court. He's a champion. Where are we really now? If we're healthy, I just wanted to ask that question because there's a lot of tank commanders out there and they're not really seeing that maybe they want to tank, but I would like to see this team whole at one point. Give me a stretch, maybe in January. I'm ready. What do you guys think? And after that, thank you guys for letting me on. I'll be tapping out after this question.
Okay, FA, you want to go ahead?
I think if it wasn't for the injury, it would be anywhere from 5 to 7. Because if you look at the games that we lost, right, we lost a lot of games with less than 5 points. Like the Boston game, that was a winnable game. The one that Scottie got injured, we're up by 4 or 3, if I'm not mistaken. So, and that was 7-14, 7-15. If you add those three and stuff like that in the Eastern Conference, we'll be somewhere between 5 and 7. And the way we're playing right now, I think it's really easy to get into the plane.
Okay. Well, I think it's worth reminding people that if you do get into the play-in, you keep your draft slot if you fall out of your play-in. So if you're the 10th team, right, it's important to realize that the West is so loaded that you could be 10th, you could make the play-in and still end up with like the 7th or 8th pick, right? Because the Western teams and the Eastern teams, when it comes to lottery seeding, are seeded not by conference, but by win-loss record. So right now, I would assume the Raptors are like 6th-ish, and they're a couple games back from the play-in. So it's possible to make the play-in, get that very big game of experience, and then if you're the 10th seed in the play-in, you have to play twice. You have to win 2 very tough games to make the playoffs. At which point you'll have a first-round date with probably the Cleveland Cavaliers, which is a matchup made in hell for the Raptors. I just want to be clear about that. That's the worst team. You don't want to face them. You don't want to face the Boston Celtics, but maybe you do. Maybe getting your ass kicked by a really good team is exactly how Orlando did it last year, right? I made a live where I don't know if you watched it, where I said there are 3 doors that the Raptors can go.
I watched it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like right now, we're kind of going into the door 3 by beating Indiana, by beating, Miami, by beating New Orleans. These are weaker teams for sure. These are not the teams you're really, really after, but you had to win these games just so that the games that you have to win now, these ones actually matter. So you're sustaining. But I definitely don't want to make the playoffs by default. That's what I don't want. I don't want that at the end of the year, we're like, okay, we beat only bad teams. Because so far, can you think of the last time we beat a team above 500?
Yeah, but that's the reason why I said the next 4 games are going to be key for me, right? Because if we lose the next 4 games, then we're looking at the dot 3. I watched your video, brilliant video, by the way. Then we're looking at dot 3, which I don't want.
Mm-hmm.
So the next 4 games, they're really, really important for me to see how we do against OKC, Dallas, New York, and forgotten the last thing.
Sure. I'm gonna flash the standings for everybody who just is curious to see where things are right now for the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah,
So right now at the
2
very
games
top,
away from playing, and
sure,
we have advantage over Indiana if we have a tie.
yes, we do. So there is no chance in my I mean, yeah, you are right, but do you realize we're not that far away from 8th? Because Indiana, Brooklyn, and Chicago are in a 3-way tie for 8th, right?
We're not far from 6. We're just 4 games from 6, and there's still a lot of games to be played.
Absolutely. And we have had the hardest schedule.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm just going to say something very outlandish, but it's absolutely true. Between Toronto, Detroit, Indiana, Brooklyn, Chicago, and Miami, the Raptors have the best player.
I agree.
And I know that that's not a popular take, and that's not a take that's going to extend beyond Raptorland, but that's how I feel. I believe that Scottie is a better player than every player on those teams. And again, I think when they're healthy, he's just going to get even better because all those assists, all those rebounds, everything just goes up. I'm curious how the offense will fit, because last time we saw Emmanuel quickly come back and it was a very clunky fit. It didn't look good for a little bit, and you were like, oh, I don't know, like this is not great, right? I hope that he will have good health for the rest of the year because I really want to see what him and Scottie can do together. I think it's a really important pairing offensively.
Yeah, but when Scottie came back too, right, I felt the same way too. It wasn't flowing until he needed like 2 or 3 games before everything started clicking. So hopefully that's what's gonna happen with Quickly when he comes back.
Yeah.
And when Quickly comes back, right, RJ is a better playmaker right now. RJ and Scottie playing together, so Quickly can play off the ball.
That's going to be an interesting thing, and I'm curious to see if he's going to buy into that, because I actually do think that is maybe the best thing.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, like you like, I'm not saying don't handle a basketball, clearly, like handle the basketball, but maybe not like Tyrese Halliburton and Tyrese Maxey. Like maybe you don't
Mhm.
need to handle the ball that much. You could still score 24. I think that's the beauty of playing with Scottie is everyone can score anyone can score 24 on any given night. It doesn't always have to be, you know, RJ Barrett. Maybe RJ can just be more efficient. Maybe Scottie will be more efficient. I think that'll be Emmanuel Quickly's greatest contribution right now is because they were flashing this graphic during the Raptors game, and I'm sure you watched it on League Pass. So you didn't watch the Raptors broadcast, or maybe you did, but they flashed this thing where they showed all the players in the league that are averaging 26 and 6.
Oh,
Right?
I normally pick the Raptors feed when I'm watching League Pass. So
Okay.
yeah.
So they showed RJ and Scottie, and I was like, oof. I'm looking at them. I'm looking at the other players. I'm like, they could probably have the lowest true shooting percentage of every player up there, and they're both on the same team. They need to get more efficient. They both need to get more efficient. Now, RJ had a big efficient game last game, so his true shooting went up 15 for 20. They both had efficient games tonight. So hopefully those numbers are all trending up positive. I'm gonna bet they were both like last game I said that Scottie didn't have the greatest game. I don't know if you saw that, but I was
Yeah.
like, Scottie didn't have the greatest game. And I was very curious to see if the box of Spinus was going to back that up. It was like 3.9. I was like, I knew it. He had a damn near triple double. And I felt it. This game was a completely different equation. Completely different equation. And I don't care what the analytics say about this game. This was a damn good game from him. And a
But
damn good game from RJ.
you talked about the teams that are 6 to 10, right? Atlanta, Miami, Chicago, Brooklyn, Indiana. Obviously, Scottie is the best player when you in all of those. When you compare him with the players in all of those teams, right? But
Yeah.
RJ is not far off from their best player.
Okay. So let's bite on that. How far is RJ from Cade Cunningham? I'm already on record saying I don't think they're that far apart. RJ versus Pascal Siakam, not that far apart. Like there's still a gap where Siakam is better, but he's not much better. Siakam versus RJ versus Halliburton. Halliburton this year has been awful. So this year he has massively outplayed Tyrese Halliburton. Halliburton last year, it's not close. Brooklyn, I don't necessarily know who's better on Brooklyn than RJ Barrett, but Cam Johnson is great. Like he's a really, really good player. It won't show up the way RJ's numbers show up, but he's really great at his role. He's better at what he does than RJ is at what he does, all things considered. But I think RJ is the better player right now. And Cam Thomas, I mean, I think RJ is better than him too. The Bulls, I think I'd take him over Zach LaVine. And that's not something I would have been able to say like last year. Like, I don't think like that's crazy to say, but yeah, I think I would take him over Zach LaVine. Miami, I think Bam is better than him.
Bam is better, yeah.
But this year, Bam has played awful. And Jimmy hasn't been great this year either. Their best player this year has been Tyler Hero. So the question is, do I think he's better than Tyler Hero? And the answer is probably marginally not. So he's played better than Bam this year or close to Bam's level this year. But yeah, I don't know if RJ Barrett is the best player on the Miami Heat. And I definitely don't think that they would be running their offense through him. But I don't know. It's an interesting thought experiment. But he's clearly these were not conversations we were having last year. You know, like this is it's crazy to think that we could even have a conversation like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, any final thoughts, man?
Yeah. Just waiting for the next 4 games then. Well, I've been really big on college basketball this year, and watching college basketball, you just realize that the NBA feels like a pickup game these days. Everybody's just jacking up threes. Like if you watch the games over the Thanksgiving holiday, they were all close and they have a lot of. I know we're talking about those three potential stars in college basketball, but they have a lot of rising folk that are rising, like Boogie Flank from Arkansas and some others there. I think regardless of whether we tank or not tank, we're going to get a very, very good player.
I agree. I agree completely. You know, whether it is, and I mean, we have shown an ability to develop successful role players. Now, I like Jonathan Mobo a lot.
I love him. I don't like him. I
Yo,
love him.
yeah, I love him.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh my
I
God.
actually, like, today I was going on, I was curious to see if I, because am I leaning too negative on Twitter? Am I saying too much stuff about this? I was curious about that, and I was thinking, like, is there a player on this team that I haven't said one bad thing about all year? Definitely Rip Boucher. I've definitely said some bad things about Scottie. I've definitely said some bad things about RJ. I've definitely said a lot of negative things about Davion. I've definitely said negative things about most of us. I was like, I don't think I've said one negative thing about Jonathan Mobile.
Because he plays within himself, right? He doesn't force it. He knows his weakness and is working on it. And like you're playing to your strength while developing your weakness.
Yeah.
And that was the problem with this guy. What was his name again? The one that was traded to New York, the power forward, Precious Ashua, right? He overdoes things, right? If you only just rebounds the ball, defend, and do the easy things, you have a really good career while you start developing all the other stuff. But when you start trying to overdo things, like sometimes Mobile drives to the basket, like he can force the shot, but he doesn't force it. He passes the ball out, right? He
Yeah.
plays within himself. So, and he already has a defense, right? He's a really, really good defender. So sure, the offense is going to come. He plays hard. Reminds me of Pascal's first year, right? Without the defense, rim runner, play hard, play defensively, and everything. Then I
Yeah.
think I'm really excited for year 3, not year 2, year 2, year 3. I think it's gonna be is a good one.
I
Anyway,
think,
go
yeah,
ahead.
like I like him for the same reasons that I like Cam Johnson. Like he's like a perfect version of himself.
Mm-hmm.
Everything he does is just winning. The tip balls are winning. The transition play is winning. The off ball stuff is winning. The on ball defense is winning. Everything he does wins. Like crashing the offensive glass, like blocking shots. He does everything to help you win. He's what Sam Vecini thought Scottie Barnes was
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
out of Florida State. Like that's basically the player he is. So that's like I love that style. I love that type of player. Now, could he become more than that? Can he accelerate himself into like a Robert Covington level 3-point shooter? Where he shoots 35 to 38%. I wouldn't put it past him. And
I
now
think
you've
I
got
think
elite
he has
3
the
and
work
D.
ethic.
For sure. And now you got elite 3 and D, and you got the perfect environment, and you got a coaching staff that's growing him up. But man, the athletic potential of this guy, like if he came from Duke, like if he had grown earlier and he had like this type of player was coming from Duke, this is a lottery pick. Ulrich, I feel so strongly about Ulrich, like to the point where this year I'm like, okay, if I had the 28th pick or the 29th pick in the 2025 draft, would I take Ulrich at like 24, 27, 28 next year? I probably would. I'm looking at the guys that are 27, 28 right now on the board, and I'm like, I like Ulrich that much. So again, Ulrich, Jacoby, Grady, like how many young players do we have coming up the pipeline? It's a lot, right? I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying you can't get more. You got 5 picks coming up in the next 2 drafts. I'm not saying I'm wanting them to be lower picks. No, clearly, I don't care. I'm happy to pick top 3. Very happy to pick top 3. Dylan Harper, come on down. Come on, Malawach, come on down. I like come on a lot.
Let me ask you a quick question before I drop off for others to come in. If you have the second pick in next year's draft, who are you going to pick? Notice I didn't say the first pick.
I'm inclined to go Dylan Harper right now with where it's going because I don't trust Ace Bailey the way you do. And in fairness, it's Brandon Miller all over again.
I was going to say that.
I know that. Don't worry. I know that. I always adjust my draft model when I'm wrong. Walker Kessler, Brandon Miller, Paolo. I always adjust. When I'm right, I victory lap for 5 years. So you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
I know, I do.
so I don't know. I get the value. Don't worry. I do. But I see way more Michael Porter Jr. than Kevin Durant, and that's not enough for me to pass up on Dylan Harper. Now, the Dylan Harper part of this equation is that I am very curious to see how his jumper will translate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other part of this equation, which is very, very important, which is Darko plus Ace Bailey.
Thank you. That's where I was going. That's where I was going.
Like, okay, now maybe you do go with Ace. Maybe you go with Ace primarily because how much you trust your development staff to be able to work with him. However, there's something about him that strikes me as off, which is I don't think he maps the court very well. He seems very surprised when he turns his head and the defense has shifted. Almost every single time, it feels like he does not see what's happening before it's happening. That
But
kind of vision
did
is
you
not
watch
easy to see.
the games this around Thanksgiving period? You can see the progression, right? What you just said, right? I noticed that at the beginning of the season, but you can see the improvement. He's getting better, and you can tell that he's not as matured as Dylan Harper. Dylan Harper obviously grew up with NBA players, right? But you can see that he's developing. But the shot making, man, the shot making, oh my God. Like 16, shooting the ball like that. I just like I
I get
envision
it.
him
I
and
get
Scottie
it.
Barnes
Trust
on the
me.
same
I
team.
get it. I
But
don't love his defense.
he,
Number
he
one.
he plays one-on-one defense, but he doesn't play. It reminds me of like, okay, like how Jakob that right? The first two games, he was missing his man or over helping. But you can see Gary Temple calling him and advising him, and you can see the difference from the first two games and today, right? So
Mm,
I see it's really with a good. He has to fall in the right system.
yeah.
If not, it's going to be Michael Porter Jr. But with the right system, with the right coach, going to OKC, going to Toronto, Miami, or maybe Memphis, it's going to be a different player.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks a lot
All
for
right,
calling in.
man. Thanks,
Appreciate you.
man.
Nice talking to you.
All
And
right.
talk to you later. Bye. Okay, AG, what's up?
Well, I have completely changed my tune, Rob. No more tank talk from me. It's not coming. It's not coming, man. I am on board. Let's go. We are going to be top 5 by the end of the season. Let's fucking do it.
Okay.
That's yeah. That's my take. Honestly, no, like on all seriousness, I think I was underestimating. Honestly, let me say this first. The post game with Scottie and RJ was really wholesome. It was great to see. And there's something to be said about team chemistry. Like, it's super important. Like, obviously I've never played ball at this level, clearly, but like I've been a part of teams growing up, and camaraderie is something extremely undervalued. Like, when you care about your teammates more.
Do you mind if I play that post game just so
Sure,
people have an
yeah.
idea? And
Go for
I'm gonna pray that this does not clip it does not get us demonetized. But I feel like I didn't get a chance to see it, so I would like to see it. But I'm gonna put a screen over it so that we hear the audio, but we don't get the full video of it.
Sure.
Is the video super important?
Not to me, maybe others, but
okay.
Barrett, hey. Okay. Career high for Scottie. Scottie, you wanted to get back into the game, and you got back into that game. Nobody on this floor wanted it more than you. How are you able to just ingest the energy that you're able to in the fourth quarter?
We just really wanted to come out here and win. I wanted to win really bad, so, I wanted to do whatever it takes. I wanted to be on the floor, try to give them all. They had some runs, but we maintained it, did what we had to do, and we got the dub.
When Scottie's on the floor, he shows up as a leader, not only offensively, but just how he gets you guys going. What do you have to say about just how he is able to get you guys there?
Very unselfish. I mean, he had 30-something points tonight, but, just the, 9, 10 assists, No, forget that. He gets everybody going. I mean, he does everything out there on the court, defense too, so, yeah. No, forget that.
I like
he
that.
He gets everybody going.
That was very, very good of him. I like that he did that.
I mean, he does everything out there on the court, defense too. So, yeah, obviously you see what happens when he's on the floor.
I mean, Scottie, the fact that you're talking about the turnovers, like, you are obsessed with this game and going to be the hardest critic on yourself. But I know fourth quarters were a concern. You had this conversation with the team after the win against Miami. What did show up in terms of closing out this game?
We showed grit, we showed fight, we showed determination. We're a team that really want to win really bad. We're going to do whatever it takes. So these guys fall hard. They try to make their run, and we persevered through it all.
RJ, a lot of people wrote off this team saying, we might not want to take in this group. What do you think you've proved game after game about what you guys have building here?
You know, we've been saying it. We put the work in. So day in, day out, we're a young team. And as the season goes along, you'll see our growth and just, you know, you'll see us getting wins.
Lastly, Scottie, I guess the goggles got to stay.
It's going to stay for a little while. Tight.
Congratulations, Guy. Kate, over to you.
Kayla, very much so enjoying the dual.
Okay, cool. The dual interviews can go, honestly. I don't care for them, but it's cool. I guess they're trying to mimic what OKC is doing with Davion Mitchell every game. Okay. I love the energy of this team. I've loved it all off season. I'm sure you've followed this channel long enough. I see your comments a lot that you know how high I was on this team in the off season, and I really like, you know, some of the work that they've done. That being said, I would like to show you who they've actually beat before we jump off the tank. Okay, just entertain me for a second.
Sure.
Okay. Now, I'm curious if you remember from memory all the teams they beat. Do you remember?
Philly.
Okay, hang on.
All right.
You tell me who they beat. I'll tell you the record. Philly is 5-14. Who else did they beat?
Charlotte.
Charlotte is 6-15. Who else did they beat?
Golly, I don't remember.
Sacramento Kings.
Yeah, what are they?
They're 9-12. Okay, who else did they beat? They beat the Indiana Pacers here. They're 9-13. Who else did they beat? They beat the Miami Heat. 9-10. Okay, who else did they beat?
Washington. Oh wait, no, we
haven't played Washington yet. Yeah. We beat the New Orleans Pelicans. They're 4-18.
I don't like where this is going, Rob. Oh no.
Oh no, indeed. Okay, you have beat a lot of teams. Granted, you were not favored to win any of these games because Vegas thought you were so bad as a roster that given the depletion that you were supposed to lose these games. I do want to mention, because fair is fair, you were within one Jason Tatum travel of beating the Boston Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
That happened. It's fair. And if that travel gets called, we don't know what happens. You were one Jokic elbow away from beating the Denver Nuggets. Mm-hmm. Those teams are above 500. You have choked at the final second against teams that are above 500. You've been blown out very few times this year. I'm going to look very briefly at the Raptors schedule just so we can have a complete summary and recap of the entire season so far, just so we understand where we are and how we got here. We started with a blowout loss to the Cleveland Cavaliers, 136-106. Then we beat the hapless, completely defenseless, totally depleted Philadelphia 76ers, 115-107. Then we lost to the Nuggets, to the Wolves, to the Nuggets, to the Hornets, and then to the Lakers. By the way, it's worth saying the Lakers are also under 500. The Timberwolves are a 500 team right now. The Nuggets were at the time struggling. The Hornets are significantly below 500. So you've lost to some below 500 teams as well. We beat the Kings, a team we would also subsequently lose to. And so we 1-1. We split with the Kings. It's worth noting that the Kings are also struggling and had a terrible shooting game, 0-for-11 from De'Aaron Fox, whatever. Point being, the Kings are below 500 and are pretty much outside the play-in picture right now in the West. The Clippers are a decent team. You played them down to the wire, I believe. I don't remember who played that game. Did James Harden play that game? Let me see here.
I think it was. Yeah, he was there. Yeah.
I don't think he was. Yes, he was. Shit. Wow. Memory. I need to eat some almonds. Okay. So James Harden was there, and you played a pretty damn good team and one of the best defenses in the league down to the wire. You lose in a blowout loss to the Lakers. The Lakers are falling apart right now. The Bucks, you lose to them at the time. They were falling apart, so they were a terrible team, and we lost to them by 14. We lost to the Pistons. They're not a good team. We lost to the Celtics by 3. So we showed up. We played our best basketball against the best of the best in the East, and we beat them. Then we beat the Indiana Pacers, same team that we beat tonight, twice. We beat the Pacers twice. Then we beat the Minnesota Timberwolves. Big win with Scottie Barnes. Then we lost. I don't want to say got smoked, but got beat by 14 by the Cleveland Cavaliers. Lost at the buzzer to the Pistons. Won against the completely injury depleted Pelicans. Worth noting, the Pelicans were still favored to win because I guess Vegas likes CJ McCollum that much. Okay. And DeJounte Murray. They lose to the Heat. Then they beat the Heat by 3, in which a fourth quarter collapse allowed the Heat to close it. And now they beat the Pacers. Okay. So I'm at a point right now where I'm like, this really could go either way. I'm not ready to jump off the tank right now. But what I'm willing to say is I'm willing to let the next week really move me away from the tank. And I don't need to win all these games. I don't mind going 2-2 over the next 4 games. 2-2 over the next 4 games will tell me something. Brooklyn is playing much better than us right now. They're not a great team right now, but they're in this same realm of teams. Dennis Schroeder will have revenge on his mind, clearly, right?
Yeah.
But OKC, New York, and Dallas are decidedly better teams. And you're playing them at home, and you're playing them undermanned. So now it's like, what do you do with the sample size? What does it mean that you got to within 3 and then lost pretty much at the buzzer to the Boston Celtics when you don't even have your full squad?
It
What
means
does
a
that
lot
mean?
to me, Rob. To me, hold on. Sorry, go ahead.
Sure. I mean, on the one hand, it does mean a lot. On the other hand, it means, okay, like devil's advocate. On the one hand, the Boston Celtics are notoriously bad at playing down to their competition. Notoriously bad. They have lost and been down to the wire. This is the Boston Celtics team that last year, same goddamn DNA, same goddamn team, same goddamn coach, that was on the wire last minute about to lose to the Detroit Pistons amidst their like 25, 26 game losing streak. The Celtics didn't lose to them. The Raptors eventually did. I think the Celtics played a terrible game. I really do. The reason that I am looking forward to the OKC game and the Dallas game is because right now the Raptors are playing well enough that other teams are not going to walk in sleeping. Now I'm curious because now that you've got everyone's attention a little bit, not you're not breaking the news cycle, but you've got everyone's attention. Now, if you come out and get smoked by 35, now we have some data points. Now you can always still say, oh, but they're still injured. They don't have Emmanuel Quickly. I don't think Emmanuel Quickly is moving you 35 points.
Well, here's what I'll say. Okay. I think it matters. Okay, so let me just say this. This is my overarching point. I think the Raptors should be 10-12 versus 7-15. And the reason I say that is for a lot of the factors that you mentioned. Okay. Let's be honest. They got hit with a horrible schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me preface my statements. I'm not a big excuse maker, okay? But let's just be honest. These are the facts. They got hit with like critical injuries to really key players, like their best player, their best guard, in my opinion, and key veteran guys off the bench. So it's like, and plus they have one of the youngest rosters in the league and a terrible schedule.
Sure.
I mean, so it's like, and so for me, the fact that they're like not as bad, like their record is not like 3-20 or whatever the math would be, to me that says something. And also just seeing Scottie come into his own, the organic growth of the players and how they've developed and how they're getting better, I don't think it's that crazy to say that they're going to go on a nice run here going into the All-Star break. I think it's possible. And on top of that, we have a management who's going to look at this roster depending on how things go, and they could look to add instead of being subtractors, right? So I think it's the natural progression of our young players, the integration of the players that are coming off the injury list, and the schedule becoming a lot friendlier for us is going to impact my decision and why I went off the tank train. That's my opinion personally.
Well, I think there's a lot of validity to what you say, right? Like playoff reps, meaningful games, winning. Made a live earlier this offseason called The Winning Effect, like how it's so important for teams to win and how this constant, we got to tank talk is frankly unevolved, and it's just not necessarily how things have to go. I think I feel a lot better because I have so much faith in the young players. We're not like a super old team where I'm like, we're about to head for, like if we hadn't had our last off season and right now we were sitting with Fred, OG, Pascal, and Scottie, I would be begging for us to tank, right? Because there's no youth coming up behind, right? You need the youth because now the devil's advocate element of this is, okay, you've turned Jonathan Mobo into an average NBA player in his first goddamn season. You've turned Scottie Barnes, after, I believe, 2 years of malpractice when it comes to development, into what's turning into like a legit star player. You've turned RJ Barrett after what I think has been 3-4 years, 5 years maybe, of mismanaged role optimization and turned him into a really good starter. What could you do with Cooper Flagg? Like, what could you actually take that dude into? He'd be 18 years old. What could you actually, you turn him into a 5-time DPOY? Could you turn him into a 12-time All-Star? He's so willing to learn and so goddamn good. If you think like Jonathan Mobo is good, dude, that's like, that dude is so much better. Now, that's not shade on Jonathan Mobo. I love Jonathan Mobo. I've done nothing but, compliment Jonathan Mobo, but he's like 5 years younger than Jonathan, and he's probably better right now. So it's just, the upside argument is hard because the same reason that I wasn't pushing for the tank in the offseason is the same reason I'm saying hang on right now. It's not because I would ever want a team to go out deliberately tank. It's just what I'm saying right now is like, let's wait and see. I'm willing to be more patient with this. I'm not doing the hot take shit. I hate when, I hate that on the panel today we were talking about whether LeBron is Father Time has beaten LeBron. I'm like, bro, like in 2 weeks he's going to be fine again, and we're going to be doing has LeBron gotten back. I don't want to do the hot take culture. It's like a big part of my content creation wish list for myself is to not be a hot takes overreactionary crazy person.
But you know why they do that, right? It's clickbaity and all that.
Of course it is. But like real analysis takes time, and real analysis doesn't change with the weather, right? Like it can change, and it should change as evidence changes. But like right now, I don't have the evidence to say this is a playoff team yet, because again, it's on paper, it's very easy to say, well, getting Emmanuel quickly back is gonna make us better, but it just makes you different. In theory, it should make you way better because you're playing right now Jamal Shed and Davion Mitchell, but does it just fundamentally change how you play basketball to the point where maybe it doesn't make you better? Like what we're seeing with the Dallas Mavericks with Luka Doncic out, what we're seeing with the Orlando Magic with Paolo Banchero. In theory, again, the analytics would tell you their team should be terrible without those players because they're so reliant on them when they're playing, right? But the reality is, without them, they've been much better defensively because Paolo and Luka are defensive liabilities. So when your offensive hub or superstar or even star or max player is a defensive liability, sometimes, at least for a short stretch, you can actually sustain having them out and just be better because you play a better defender in their place. So I'm like, okay, Davion plus Jamal Shed, that's low usage. That's loading up usage for Scottie and RJ, which has been better this year at least than usage for Emmanuel quickly, especially with his decision making with the basketball. So on paper, Grady plus Bruce plus Kelly plus IQ should make you way better. It should, but it will mean less minutes for Mobo. It will mean less minutes for Battle, which means you're losing a shooter. You're losing possibly your best big. I'm that high on Jonathan Mobo. I'm willing to say he's like right up there as your best big. Like I get nervous when he goes to the bench. I get really nervous. I'm like, oh, there goes the lead. So him, Battle, like Jacoby is worse right now than Grady, so that will be at least marginally an upgrade. But defensively, I think Jacoby does so many good things. It's not a surprise that we are 3-1 since he's been starting. Right?
He's good. He has so much upside defensively. It's totally so good to see. Yeah.
Anyways, man, any final thoughts?
Yeah, my final thoughts is I trust me, I know what you're talking about when it comes to like hot takes. I'm kind of, I'm just playing a little bit in the chat, but at the end of the day, yeah, these next 4 games are going to tell us a lot. But I definitely have more hope seeing seeing what's transpired over the last 4 games. I have a lot of hope for this season. It's not thrown out yet. Obviously it would be great to have Cooper Flagg, like you were saying earlier. Holy shit, like this guy's the upside on him is ridiculous, but especially with this organization. But at the end of the day, either way, I'm happy. I'll be honest. Like as long as we're not mediocre, I'm happy. So
exactly, it's free money. We all have tenure right now. We're playing with monopoly money. That's where we're at right now. So worst case scenario is, oh my God, we're a playoff team with this super young roster in a depleted conference and have a chance to potentially advance. And best case scenario, mean, it's not even best or worst. It's like the other door is really like the only bad door. And I painted out on the last live or 2 lives ago was if you just keep beating these sub 500 teams and you keep getting smoked by all the good teams, that to me would not be I wouldn't be happy with that. I'm going to complain about that. I'll be insufferable if that happens. Like, I'm going to bitch about it every game. I'll be like, man, we beat the Washington Wizards again. Fuck. You know, like then I'm going to be mad because those wins, they don't count to shit for me. I don't give a shit. I don't need moral victories against Washington to feel better. Like I'm not, my life is not that sad that I need to beat the crap out of, you know, Jordan Poole and freaking Bub Carrington and Alex Sarr. Like, I don't care about that. Like, a fully healthy Raptors team should smoke that team by 50. I don't care. Like, I care about the games where you really can measure yourself, like the New Yorks, like the Bostons. Like, I want us to be competitive and winning those games. And I feel like management will also view this the same way because we're still significantly below 500 and it's still a bit of a pipe dream because there's like some pretty tough competition ahead, right? Yeah. Anyways, man, thanks a lot for calling in. Appreciate you always, you know, populating the chat with your common sense. Thank you. Appreciate
awesome. Yeah, great stream.
Yeah. Cheers. Okay, we got 2 more callers, IzJayce and Layne. We are at the 2 hour and 10 mark. I appreciate you guys calling in. IzJayce, hope you don't mind. This is going to be a 5-minute conversation. IzJayce, what's up?
Hey, just I don't have much time either. Just
great.
Wanted to chime in. I just like how we're winning with all the handicaps. It's making it interesting because it kind of gives you like the potential of like what this team would be with like actual good space around Scott and everything and how far they could go. So yeah, just not too much other than that. I like how the team is set up as well because with the contracts and stuff, it's easy to trade and make like a winning now move, or it's like
who do you want to trade?
Maybe just like some contracts like Bruce, Boucher, Davion, you know, those Bruno as well, just like players like that for some spacing players. But I also think another good thing about this team, the way it's set up, very interesting, is that you don't have to sit Scottie to tank. In this opinion, I think if you have because Pirtle makes up so much of this team's like inside defense. So I think if you trade Pirtle away, I think you're kind of already tanking. Like the amount of pressure in the middle is already so much. I don't think even if you play Scottie, you won't be winning those games.
I think you could win without Pirtle.
Really?
With the way RJ, Scottie, I think you might just unlock a transition offense that will be so hard to stop. Like, I think it depends on who plays in his place, but this might be one of those. Do you remember? I don't know how long you followed the NBA, but do you remember the time when they went away from Andrew Bogut at center and then started playing a little bit more of Draymond Green at center?
No, I don't.
Okay, so Golden State had a more traditional lineup and a more traditional big. And then when Steve Kerr took over, he tried, I think it was David Lee, actually. I apologize. It was not Andrew Bogut. It was David Lee. And I think they went away from David Lee and they went to Draymond Green. And it was just like he was a little bit undersized. I think something like that could very much happen for the Raptors if they go with Jonathan Mobo at the 5, where his spacing, his transition, his activity level defensively could just unlock a completely different wrinkle of the offense. And again, basketball works on a string. It's very difficult to say this lineup will work this way with this player. And that's why it's difficult to say what would Jason Tatum do with OKC and what would Shea do in Boston. But you just hypothesize. So I'm looking at this roster right now. I'm looking at the synergy Scottie and you know, JMO have defensively. I'm thinking about guys like Ochai. I'm thinking about guys like Grady. I'm thinking about guys like IQ and RJ. I'm like, I think Jonathan Mobo makes even more sense with this group. And his basketball IQ is right up there. Like, I'm not saying he's necessarily as advanced as Yak because he's a rookie, but he makes all the same decisions. Like, he does everything that Yak would do. It's just he's fast. And, you know, he protects the rim really well. And he's a great switch defender, peel defender. He's great. So I don't think people realize that there's not that big a gap between Jonathan Mobo and Jakob Poeltl. And I think I think Jonathan Mobo is what's the gap is obviously finishing talent at the rim. That's the gap.
Okay. So
like,
do you think that if a Jakob Poeltl trade was made, do you think that basically what would happen was that everyone would be like help defending for like the rim protection wise, like there would be everyone would be helping that and it'd make up for that amount that Yak does
I don't
last
think
year.
Yak is that great as a rim defender.
Okay,
Like,
so
did you see Tyrese Halliburton just blow past him today? Now, I understand Tyrese is like a guard and Yak is a big, and so he's supposed to get beat. But I don't think 3 years ago or 4 years ago, Yak is getting beat that badly. I mean, it's not Tyrese Halliburton is not John Morant. Like, he's not that twitchy. He's not that fast. He should, and he's not like he's shooting that well. So Yak getting abused by Ivica Zubac in LA Clippers was one thing. Yak's been getting abused a lot defensively this year. He's been a big part of the Raptors' problems and solution this year. His playmaking has been good. His finishing has been great. His screen setting has been great. His rebounding has been elite. But his defense and his lack of shooting and his free throw shooting, although has been a little bit better, have been issues. His turnovers, his fouling have been issues. So it's like it's very mixed bag. It's like with Scottie, you know, you could say like the 3-point shooting percentage has been terrible, but the defense has been an overwhelming positive. Every
the
player
attempts have been
has
positive.
been positive. Yeah, like RJ Barrett's, you know, shooting efficiency has been terrible, but his playmaking load has been awesome. You know what I mean? Davion Mitchell's point of attack defense has been awesome, but his shooting has been terrible. So
See,
it's like
that's what I'm enjoying about the game. I like seeing the players expanding their games and like developing. Like even if they're missing shots, it's giving them that confidence, right?
Mhm.
Do you actually remember a little bit what we talked about like last live where it got kind of heated at the night?
I
or
don't
no?
remember. I've
Okay.
pretty much compartmentalized that entire conversation, and I've actually taken that conversation as a. I don't remember entirely. I think it was you pretty much saying that we should tank for Cooper Flag because, I mean, again, I don't want to relitigate. I don't give a shit about it. But I think I learned a lot from that conversation, which is that, you know, when I can't have a conversation, I just need to leave the conversation.
Yeah, it just a lot of words that came out the wrong way, I guess, or was
Yeah, it's all good.
Point, but,
Anyways, man, any final thoughts?
No, it's just I'm happy, honestly. Like I was kind of a little bit on Team Tank, probably from like before, obviously the cars and all that, but I'm really enjoying these wins, right? Like I've been really enjoying the like the way we're winning. It's not like like Scottie post possessions feeding the same, you know, one everyone's expanding their games and we're winning that way with the handicap. So I'm just happy to see what this team does if they pivot towards the draft. Like heavy into the top 5 and try to grab that last final maybe defensive piece or something at the 4 or something, and then letting everyone play their natural positions. Or if we go I don't know, maybe make a win now trade and just go for it this year. But I'm still kind of on like towards the like let's get this year under our belt first with development and getting a good pick, and then next year is when we can start striking.
Cool, man.
I'm still on that side a little bit, but
thanks a lot for calling in. Appreciate you.
Okay.
Cheers.
Okay. Bye. Thank you.
JT111 saying we lose without Yak. I mean, it's debatable. We cannot, like, I cannot say for sure that you will or won't. I'm saying he does a million positive things. He has not been one of your 3 best players. Okay, that's just me saying it honestly. He's been like your 3rd best player, but that's because your real 3rd best player or 2nd best player hasn't really played much this year, which is Emmanuel quickly. So at best, when the thing is going right, when this team is going right, if Jakob was still the defensive player that he used to be, he would by far be your 2nd or 3rd best player. But because he's not where he was defensively, I think at this point he's your 4th best player. It's not easy to just tank because you're missing your 4th best player, especially when your 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th best players are all much better than expected. Ochai is very valuable. Grady is very valuable. I think Grady helps winning almost as much as Jakob right now. Grady, when going right, was helping winning about as much as Jakob because, he gives us some stuff on defense too, but offensively he does completely new things for your spacing. So I don't know, man. This team is way deeper than anyone could have expected. I think even I, who was very, very high on the Raptors offseason, was not this high on guys like Jamison Battle, Ochai Baji. I don't think I saw this kind of jump from Grady. I expected him to get better. I didn't expect him to get this much better. And the guys that I expected to get better, which is guys like Scottie, and largely it was Scottie and Emmanuel quickly that I was expecting to take the major jump, and that's why I was so optimistic. Well, they've been injured a lot. So yeah, it's very fair to say right now, if Scottie plays all these games, you're probably a game or 2 above 500, right? Anyways, let's bring on Layne. Layne, what's up? IO, what's up?
You mentioned something that really made me think, because, I mean, maybe it's because I'm ignorant. I haven't really thought much about it. But when Kelly comes back, right, when Bruce comes back, when IQ comes back, like, where do these minutes go? for guys like Battle, for guys like Mobo, for guys like Jacoby, right? Even when Dick comes back too, like add him into the equation. Like, where do these minutes go? Does Chris Boucher start getting a lot of DNPs? Does Jamal Shed start getting a lot of DNPs? Like, I mean, Chris, I wouldn't mind, but Shed, someone's I don't want to see him get DNPs. It feels like it's a too many cooks in the kitchen type of situation.
It's possible. It's possible. I do think that, that I don't want to see Scottie and RJ get like frozen out or like freeze themselves out. Like I want to see them continue doing this because it's been good. It's been a good process. However, I am curious to see what RJ looks like and what Scottie looks like against the next slate of games, because this is where you really test yourself, right? It really is. And it's one thing to put up 35, 36, whatever against Indiana, Miami, whatever, teams that are not necessarily playing that great. It's another thing to, have dominant games against Detroit and New Orleans Pelicans. This was the soft part of your schedule. When I laid out, the bearish outlook or whatever for the schedule, I literally said these games are must wins. These are the must wins. Now, can you be competitive and split the next few? If you beat OKC, the hysteria will be crazy. There will be like 800 people in here. I guarantee it. And people will be like, is this real? We'll see. We'll see. I'm very process obsessed. And, Kelly helps. He's an upgrade. Kelly's an upgrade.
Yep. 100%. 100%. It's just, it feels like to me, it's like, man, are we going to be playing 11 guys a night? I mean,
we should play 11 guys a night because like the Golden State Warriors would happily play if they still had DeAnthony Melton. They'd happily be playing 12 guys a night. If you want to play pressure like this, you got to play stints like this. I haven't seen a rotation of 3 point guards playing every half like I have with the Raptors. Now, thankfully, less Davion minutes now, which is interesting. But he is doing Scottie, and then he goes to the bench, which is Davion. And Davion will inevitably come in for either Scottie or RJ or somebody. And then we'll see Jamal Shed come in for him. So he's playing 3 levels of the rotation, right? So now it's the same thing with Jacoby, whereas like, okay, so maybe you go with Grady, and if Grady doesn't have it, or Grady's getting cooked defensively, which he is known to do from time to time, then you can go to Ochai. And now if Ochai is really getting egregiously knocked out, then you go to Jacoby. Shit. Like, I think we've seen this before in Raptorland, man. If you don't let a prospect get demoralized and they're third string and they're in a good environment and they're winning basketball games, they will get better. Like Fred VanVleet started out as 4th string.
Yep.
And he worked his ass up to 2nd string and then 1st string. So, if Jacoby's good and Jacoby's talented and Jacoby's, they're invested in him and they're pouring into him and they're always keeping him abreast of everything that's happening, I don't see why he has to be 1st string or 2nd string in order to make an impact. He's fine.
I agree with you. I 100% agree. I just hope it doesn't hurt them mentally. And then another thing too is like, we're running out of games for Battle at this point. Like Bruno's got to get cut soon.
Yep.
I mean, we are running. I think he has like 3 games left.
What's the rule on 2-ways? How many can they play?
I believe it's 20.
I don't think so. No,
It's either
not a chance in hell. Not a chance in hell. Contract, NBA. Hold on. I'm saying not a chance in hell. Let me see here.
I could be extremely wrong. Watch it be like 35 or 40 or something like that. But I believe it was like 20 or 25.
Yes, I believe it is too. Hang on. I'm gonna just check.
They're saying 50. I'm way off. Holy shit.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because I remember Jeff Doughton was at like 47 or something, and then we were worrying about like whether or not he was going to be. Yeah, so he's not. You're nowhere.
Never mind. Yeah, I'm nowhere near. But I mean, you got to think like he's going to be cut soon. Like as soon as Kelly comes back, there's not even a need for him.
Actually, he's probably the most ideal pairing with Kelly.
He's played solid, but I don't know if I'm willing to give up Mobo minutes.
Oh, I would not give up Mobo minutes.
No, not at all. I mean,
but here's an idea, and it is a controversial one, but it might just work. Do you remember in Pascal Siakam's rookie season when he came out and he played like legit minutes and he was starting?
Yeah, he started like 9 games or something.
Yeah. And then he was down in the G League.
Yep.
So what would you say if Jacoby and Jonathan Mobo spent a lot of time in the G League once we get healthy. Would you be
I wouldn't-
really upset with that?
I wouldn't mind that as long as they're getting reps. It's reps, right?
Yeah, because I think the explanation to them has to be, listen, we know that you want to contribute on this level, but in order to round out your game right now, you need opportunities with the basketball that we can't give you. We don't need Jonathan Mobo. Like what I want Jonathan Mobo to be, he cannot be for this team right now because there's already too many cooks. I need him initiating offense. I want him grabbing the basketball off the break and running it like he's LeBron in the G League. I want him to get stripped 100 times. I want him to take 6 threes in one game so that he gets used to it.
Agreed.
I think Jonathan Mobo being this good is the low-hanging fruit. I think it is, there's that old thing of like the stale donuts. I don't know if you've heard it. I reference it all the time with my girlfriend, and I always accuse her of taking stale donuts whenever she, doesn't manage her impulses. There was like they do this test with children where they say, hey, these are like, day old donuts, but if you don't eat these within 20 minutes, fresh donuts will appear. And it's like, do you wait for the fresh donuts or do you eat the stale ones because you're not sure that the fresh ones will ever come? And that comes down to delayed gratification and how willing you are to jump at the thing that's right in front of you. Now, the thing that's right in front of you is Jonathan Mobo is a very, very serviceable role player in the NBA. He is competent defensively. He might, on certain nights, be your best defender.
Agreed.
Okay.
Agreed.
That does not spell to me, for a team that is already goddamn poor defensively, like it doesn't feel like you can now afford to send him down to the G League for reps. He is so much better than Pascal Siakam was as a rookie, just to be clear on that. However, it's worth noting that in order to extract the potential first team all defensive, perennial starter type guy that he could potentially be, I'm not saying he will be, but could be 2-3 years down the line, the G League reps are very important right now. So I would have a very difficult conversation with him right now and say, listen, you are one of our 7 best players right now. When healthy, we want to play you. But there is something very important about you playing 35 minutes a night as one of the top 3 options, and we can't give you those reps right now. So I would be ping-ponging him, and if you make the playoffs, boom, he's back in the rotation.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, here's the question. My best friend's a Miami Heat fan, so I mean, he's just off the wall with some of the hypotheticals he'll ask me about the Raptors because he could care less. And he had one the other day that really made me think, because he really likes Mobo too. And it's like, let's say 2 years, maybe next year. Next year, for example, he said 2 years. But let's go next year for contract's sake.
Sure.
Let's go. Let's say you're coming up on the trade deadline. You're 8 games over 500, right? But you need to make a move for a 4. And you have Olynyk, you have Podol, and you have Mobo. Obviously, Mobo is not going anywhere. But you have to move one of those Olynyk or Jakob contracts. Which one do you move and why?
For what?
For a spacing for a 3 and D4.
Like Cam Johnson?
Something like that, yes. Just in general, like a 3 and D4. Like there was no name in particular, but it's like which one would
I don't think Kelly and Jakob hold the same value, nor do they have the same contract. So if it's Kelly, it's going to be Kelly plus a lot of stuff. It's going to be like Kelly plus Davion plus your indie pick plus another pick. It's going to be hard.
100%. But I think what he was getting at is like, which one do you think is more replaceable, or which one do you think means less to this roster? Because obviously Mobo's he's here. He's going to be here for the next 6-7 years at least, right? Which one eventually?
Hope so.
Do you? I hope so. But like, which one of Yak or Kelly do you end up moving to free up PT minutes, all that kind of stuff? And it really made me think, because honestly, I think Kelly fits with this team better. But like Yak has been an animal for us this year so far. Like it's a really, really hard conversation to have. But eventually, I mean, you're going to cross paths. I mean, in the next 12, 13 months, to where you're going to have to decide.
I would trade Yak.
I 100% agree with you. I don't want to, but I agree with you.
I'm gonna say why. And after that, I want to address the Davion situation because it got really toxic, really heated. I don't know if you saw it. It was really bad to the point where, like yesterday, I blocked close to 100 people off of X. And I was just like, I have to just get off of this. Okay. It was
Crazy
bad.
stuff.
Oh my God. Like when a player goes at you, like believe me, like all the trolls come out.
I hope you're good, dog.
Hmm?
I said I hope you're good mentally, dog.
Oh, I'm great. I'm great.
Thank
I needed like I needed a good couple hours to just kind of rebrief myself and be like, what the hell are we doing here? Okay. So I would trade Yak largely because I don't think him and Scottie have long-term synergy. And I don't think that you're going to necessarily enjoy great playoff success with Yak on the court. I think he makes your entire thing very predictable. I think that pick and roll with him and Scottie, where Scottie airballs, where he calls Yak into the play and the defense just does not budge because there's no threat. That is literally the hallmark of their synergy on the court. And that's not blaming one or the other. That's just saying that in order to execute with Yak, you need Fred VanVleet. Like that's the type of player you ideally want to have. You need Trae Young. Jakob is not being properly utilized here, and he's doing so well. If he were a Rudy Gobert level defender, I think I could look the other way on it. Because he's not. He's a great release valve. But once Scottie came back, he's playmaking a lot less. So now he's just a hustle big. At which point, I really need you to be a great defender, and you're not. So it almost like Scottie coming back takes away like something that he was doing really, really well, which is being super involved with the offense. And he's a super unselfish guy. So his value extends well beyond the court. It's like as a mentor, teacher, he's great. I'm by no means pushing to trade him. I'm saying if I had to choose between the two, number one, I lean more Yak because the synergy is better with Kelly. And the second part is Yak's trade value is much higher because Kelly hasn't played this year.
Agreed. And here's the thing where I don't know how much Messiah and Bobby believe it, but they both said it about Yak being the center on this team the next time they win a championship. I don't know how much they believe in that. That's the only thing that would make me think that they would,
I mean, you got to say it, I guess. I mean, you don't have to say it. You can certainly say it, but you certainly don't have to say it. And, like what else are you supposed to say? Like, hey, we traded for this guy. It was for Pascal and Fred and OG, and now those guys are gone, and we're waiting for the highest bidder. Look, man, I think they have no problem keeping him around for a very long time. I really do. But I think the best version of this team is not going to feature a center who can't shoot next to Scottie Barnes.
I agree with you.
Watching Myles Turner today was so interesting because it's like I'm not a huge Myles Turner fan, but you see how much better that fit would be.
His ball is heavy. Like that ball comes down heavy. Like it comes down like a meteor. Like you gotta get what I mean by that. Like some guys have some soft jump shots. He has a hard jump shot. Like that thing goes to the net hard.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But yeah, no, I don't know. It made me think. Like I love this team though. Like there's not one player I see coming off like running to the scorers table to get in the game, and I'm like, oh man, not this guy. You know what I mean? Like even when it's Bruno, which it hasn't been in the past 2 weeks, but even when it was Bruno, outside of the first 2 weeks, it was at least like I understood why. And I don't dislike the guy. I mean, good dude.
There's nobody on this team that makes you a little bit nervous when they check in.
Boucher, but like it either goes really well or really wrong. Davion offensively, but it's better when Scottie's out there.
Interesting.
I feel better when Scottie's out there.
Yeah, I mean, Boucher to me is like it's Kinder Surprise. Davion, same thing. It's like they could either go 0 for 5 in this quarter alone and have 3 turnovers, or they can be plus 10. They're too high variance. Role players can't be this high variance. Like you'll see that. You'll see that across the league. That like Karis LeVert, not necessarily Karis LeVert, but like the Max Strus model, the George Niang model. You just got to be able to produce predictable results every single time. I can't be like my bench unit might tank because my 5th best guy is not showing up today. So being a role player in the NBA is not about being a great player. It's about being a very predictably consistent player and doing things that are required to win. So Davion and Chris both do things that are required to win. They both, pressure the rim. I mean, they pressure defensively. Chris Boucher is very, long and wiry and runs the court and whatever. But it's like some days he's not there mentally. He's just not there. He's like four crazy shots, 2 turnovers, and you're like, what are you doing?
I agree. I have one more question, and you don't have to answer it, obviously, because of all the stuff that's been coming up. I've wanted to ask this now for like a week, like before the drama and everything. But and I'm not saying this is going to be the contract, but this is what I think it should be.
No.
Okay. Got you.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. No.
I wanted to test if I got ahead of you before I got behind you. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. If the Raptors, it comes out like next week that they extend Davion Mitchell to a 2-year, $8 million deal for $4 million a year, are you happy or sad?
Sad.
Got you. I respect it. I kind of agree with you there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I think.
I think that's Kem Birch all over again. He's not worth $4 million a year.
I agree with you. If he could shoot at least 33%, 34% from 3, maybe. But I don't see it.
It's okay. So the there's this question about why the West is so good. You notice that a lot of Western teams are really hot weather climates, right? Phoenix, Houston, San Antonio, Texas, right? Just LA, Sacramento. These are all warm. All like 90% of Western teams are in warm climates. They're in Southern Hemisphere climates. The only Western teams that weren't are Minnesota, Seattle, Portland. You know what I mean? Like those are the northern ones. But like the East is kind of burdened with all the snow. And I think that when it comes down to minimum contracts, specifically guys like the Gary Trent Jr.'s, the Tyus Joneses of the world. Now, why Gary chose Milwaukee, we will never understand. However, it is worth noting that the Raptors will always be at a perceptive disadvantage when it comes to signing minimum guys, league minimum guys. So the question then becomes, is Davion Mitchell the best minimum guy? At which point you don't really mind the $4 million because he's still relatively young. He's obviously very good on your team, in terms of building culture and practice habits. And, the fans really love him. Fans love him. That's why my criticism of him has been so poorly met, because I think it is bringing up a lot of Fred VanVleet unresolved traumas for some people, so I don't know. I just think it's an overpay. I don't think it's necessarily a good use of money. I think there are 15 to 20 guards in Europe that you could easily bring over for a minimum that would be happy with this opportunity, or maybe you'd have to sign them to $4 million, but they'd be just as good. And also, you got five fucking draft picks coming up in the next two years. 5, not to mention any undrafted guys you might find. And I'll guarantee you next year you could find someone better than him in the undrafted heap. That's where I'm at.
There's
more potential.
I'm going to be a homer here for a second again, but lightning struck once, so let it strike again. There's this guy for Ohio State. His name's Bruce Thornton, starting point guard. He is 6'6". If we can get him anywhere between 30 to 35 in this draft, stud, absolute stud. I think he's shooting like 44% from 3 right now. Like absolute stud. I think he's like 58, 59% from that field. I mean, like everything's going in. He's going to be a 50, 40, 90 guy this year for Ohio State. Exceptional defense. I don't know if defense translates to the NBA.
Okay.
But I mean, he was our best player. He was better than Jamison Battle last year.
Wow. Well, I mean, the Raptors obviously scouted him, right? Because they watched Jamison Battle, so they must have scouted him. I'll be very curious to that. I have a friend of mine who's actually in this draft coming up, and he is pegged. We joked about it the other day. He's actually pegged around that Portland pick right now. So if that happens, that'd be great. I go from being blocked by one to followed by the other. That'd be great. No, it'll be cool. I don't know. I will. I'm very, very high on this next year's draft in terms of depth in the second round. I think it's really good, and I just don't think Malachi Flynn did not keep his NBA job. Stanley Johnson did not keep his NBA job. Yuta Watanabe is gone. Like, I don't think people realize how many guys fall out every year and how many of those guys, unfortunately, don Raptor jerseys. Like, I don't think people understand it. Like, it's ridiculous.
the fight to keep them in the league when they're obviously not NBA guys.
Right. And Kem Birch, again, is an example of a guy who probably, if you signed him to a 1-year minimum and he had the year that he had with the Raptors, he's not in the league.
Bring back Freddie Gillespie.
Sure, he's not in the league either. Right? I don't know where these guys are. I don't know where they go, but ultimately it's overseas because there's 450 and the league is getting super talented really quickly. And you just have to be shooters. You have to be a shooter as a guard. You cannot be airballing fucking open threes. It's just fucking embarrassing. He doesn't put enough pressure on the rim. There's so many issues. But you know what? Tonight, finished the game strong. Hit that, free throw. I think he hit a couple free throws, right? That's how he scored his buckets. Yeah. He scored a couple free throws. He hit a 3, and then he had that massive layup. So, and it should have been continuation. So on the free throws. So
we got him for McDaniels. It's not like we gave up value.
We didn't get him for we took him in order to we took him in order to get the Jamal Shed and the Portland second round pick. So ultimately it's Jamal Shed and that Portland second round pick that are ultimately going to replace him on this roster, because you can't have 2 of these guys. I just want to be clear about something. When the Raptors compete, you cannot have 2 guards who are undersized who do the same thing. There's like actual things you need on this roster that you just don't have right now. Like there's a stretch big who can actually like punish defenses inside that you don't have right now. There's like young twitchy prospects that you might not have right now. There's, so again, like who are the 2 guys who go off this team next year in order to facilitate the space? And also like that's not just it. Like the Raptors aren't just going to bring in their first round pick and then this other guy. Like they're going to use their mid-level next year if they're a good team. So it's just like when you start to crunch the math, right? No matter how much you like the guy, no matter how much they talked well about Davion or Malachi or any one of these guys, they talked well about Precious. Precious, you're mine. They talked well about OG. OG will be here forever. They talked about Pascal Siakam. Like it's a business. The shit moves on. And in the end of the day, you need shooters around Scottie. You need great shooters. Look at who they have. Can you imagine a front office going out, signing Jamison Battle, drafting Grady in the lottery, drafting Jacoby Walter, and then being like, yeah, Davion Mitchell's worth $8 million. Just complete opposite players, man.
Yep, 100%. And when you say a stretch big on this roster, you mean more of like a Myles Turner type of guy or more of like a Serge Ibaka type of guy?
Serge Ibaka type of guy.
Okay, I agree with you. 100% there. I just want a clarification because I hear it a lot, and I think more people are thinking a Myles Turner type of player, but in my head, I think a Serge just fits so much better with this.
Can you define, and we'll get to the post-game right after this, for anyone wondering, like, are we going to go to the post-game interviews? Yes, we will go to the post-game interviews right after this, but can you explain to the people in the back row, like, what is the difference between Myles Turner and Serge Ibaka for you? Just very briefly, if you can.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think Serge is a good play finish. I think he's very much like a Jakob where you don't have to run stuff for him. And I think a Myles Turner is a guy who's very high maintenance, and you're going to have to run stuff through, where Serge is going to get the job done. But if you ask him to step up, right, he's going to step up. Like that 2020 season, he was probably your 3rd or 4th best player. A lot of the time when you that season after the championship, a lot of the time he was probably your 3rd or 4th best player, to be honest with you, right? Some nights he was your 6th, some nights he was your 5th, but I'd say like 80% of the season, night in, night out, he was your 3rd or 4th best player, and he wasn't asking for plays to be ran for him. He wasn't asking for the ball. He was a big play finisher, right? If you remember that that heat check, not that heat check, but like that grenade he had to throw up against the Indiana Pacers to win the game back in 2020. Like a guy like that is exactly what we need.
Yeah.
If that
I'm a very big Serge Ibaka fan. You don't need to sell me on it for sure. I think, yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I feel like everyone's looking for like a 7-foot dude. And it's like, man, if we can just get a guy like 6'9" through 6'11", that's like 37% from 3 and at least defends the rim semi well, like I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, for sure. A Serge would be a starting center on this team right now. Like prime Serge Ibaka would be the starting center on this team because he just fits. Plus, he fits so well next to Scottie. It's such a shame that Scottie never got a chance to play with Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka because he plays so well off them. Anyways, man, thanks a lot for calling in. Appreciate you as always.
Yes, sir. You have a great night, man.
Take care. You too. Okay, let's get to the post game so that I can stop speaking, and then I'll address the Davion stuff. It's nothing bad. It's nothing bad at all. It's just something I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to talk about it from the perspective of the fourth quarter game, partially. I also wanted to talk about it because I think that a lot of realizations came out of it, specifically as it pertains to social media, how I feel about what I'm doing, and whether I think some of the charges are fair or not. And I'm always going to take accountability. If I've done something wrong, I will always take accountability. If I believe that it needs to change, I will always change. That is my promise to you, that I'm not going to sit here and lie. I'm never going to come out and say that I think a player is great or that a player is bad if I think the opposite. So that's my obligation. And if I start doing that, if I start running for my takes because I'm afraid of who might unsub or be upset, then I'm not doing this for the right reasons. Okay, let's get to this, and then we'll talk about it after.
Chemistry between you and Scottie has kind of been developing now in this last
Looks good, don't it? Looks good. I like playing with Scottie. Yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's fun. I think we complement each other. I think we don't step on each other's toes at all. So, playing with him has been fun.
I mean, when he's sort of playing that point guard role, I mean, he found you for, a three kind of over the defense at the end of the second quarter, I guess. And does he make some passes that maybe he can make just because of his size and because of his length?
Yeah, because of his size, he can see over the defense, and he's very, very smart. So it's just, like I always say with him, it's kind of just find the right spots, like just get open, cut. He's going to see it. So just keep moving, keep playing, and he'll find you.
RJ, back-to-back wins in 3 of your past 4 games or wins. What's working for you as a team?
What's working? I think we're just, we're starting to figure out how to win some of these games at the end. I think we've also been doing a good job from the start and giving ourselves a lead so that even when teams make a run, we're still okay. And, instead of just going all the way down. So, yeah.
Jakob mentioned when he was in here earlier, after that 8-0 run that Indiana put together in the fourth quarter, he called timeout and he's just like, we just got to win each possession. How much does that help to just settle it down and, like you said, close out the game?
Yeah, he was very calm in that timeout. Like you said, he just spoke to us and, we knew what to do and we responded.
When guys are in and out of the lineup, I feel like you're one of the players that gets impacted the most in terms of what they need more from you. Obviously, it's past everybody in next man up mentality, but I do feel like you kind of have to slot into certain positions. So how are you able to kind of stay versatile to step up when players are gone, but then also kind of find your rhythm in your game when players are back?
Just try to do whatever the team, needs. If it was being more on the ball, being off the ball, guarding the best player, whatever I have to do, rebounding, being in the corner, cutting. I pride myself on being able to adapt. That's kind of just a trait that I have as a person, on and off the court. So, being able to adapt, I think, is one of my superpowers. So, yeah, that's kind of what you see.
Is there any other conversations with Darko in terms of expectations of you ever off the that reflect?
Well, I think it's easy. Darko he's very straight up, so he tells you what it is that you need. So when you're going into the game, you know exactly what to do.
Oui, RJ, félicitations encore une fois pour la victoire. 2 victoires de suite, 4 victoires à la maison. Qu'est-ce qui marche présentement à l'équipe? Qu'est-ce qui marche bien, qui fait que vous gagnez ainsi?
On joue bien, mais Scottie Barnes, 35 points. Ça aide beaucoup.
Et moi, je voulais te demander, dans ce match, vous n'avez jamais été derrière. À chaque fois, vous êtes resté devant, même quand ils ont fait le run. Ouais. Est-ce que c'est un signe que l'équipe, maintenant, commence à savoir comment gagner et comment gérer ces matchs?
Oui. Quand j'ai dit avant le début du match, on était là. Et quand j'ai dit avant Scottie Barnes, 35 points, ça aide beaucoup.
That was probably your best driving game of the season. One of the best driving games of your season, maybe one of the best of your career. What motivated you? What were you seeing on the court that allowed you to find those seams and get to the rim so often?
I was just being aggressive, trying to get downhill and just playing from there. Going downhill with force, I think our coach has just been telling me that a lot lately. Drive downhill with force, create that contact and just try to finish through it, go try to dunk. Just trying to start off early, not wait until like the second half to get it started, being more aggressive early, it's paying off.
How do you enjoy that matchup with Pascal? Like he was playing you pretty physically for long stretches.
Yeah, he was playing pretty physical. Pascal, he wants to win. He's a competitor. He's going to try to do what it takes. If that's playing physical, you got to play physical. We wanted it to be a physical game. Yeah.
You and RJ seem to be really kind of finding each other. Not that you did before, but since you come back from your injury, it seems to be a nice chemistry forming there. What's making it work?
When we're both being aggressive and we're both getting downhill, pushing the pace, finding each other in transition, it pays off really well. I think I said 2 or 3 days ago, our games complement each other really well. It does. We're finding each other, just trying to give each other that space to be able to create and play off that. So I think we're doing a great job, finding each other and just being able to let each other play and find those seams to be able to try to create, to be able to hit the roll with Yak, find each other in the corner, push the ball ahead and transition in so we can get those easy baskets.
RJ was just here saying that he thinks that back-to-back wins in 3 of your past 4, it's because you guys are finding ways to close out games. From your perspective, what's the difference in terms of how you're maybe playing a tighter game in the last, say, 8 minutes of the fourth quarter?
Repeat that question.
RJ was saying that you guys are closing out better. How do you think you guys are closing out now over the past, say, 4 games?
I think we did a great job closing out this game. They had a good run in that third quarter. Had some turnovers on my part. But that fourth quarter, we did a great job locking in, getting stops, the stops that we really needed. Wasn't fouling as much as we were in the third quarter. We scored on the other end, and, we ran the offense trying to take that time off the clock. When it came down to really trying to get a stop and focus and lock in, we got it done.
Scottie, as somebody who, yourself won Rookie of the Year, and now you're leading this team that has a lot of rookies on it, what are some of the messages that you tell these young guys, especially when they're having the highs and lows of just being a rookie player in the NBA?
To be honest, with this team that we have, our chemistry is just so great off the floor. We're just so well connected. We just believe in each other so much. These guys have a lot of freedom, and our coach allows them to have that freedom when they're out there on the floor. We want them to be aggressive. It only helps our team for the best. We don't really see these rookies. You don't really see their downs. Even if no matter how the outcome of the game go, we're just really so well connected together, and our plane rides back home. If we're on the road, we're still talking, communicating. This group is just so well connected, and I love that about this team. That's one of our best traits, and that's when you have a well-connected team, that's something special to be a part of. We have a lot of guys that's communicating off the court. We're constantly texting. We play the game together. We do a lot of different things together, and, that just helps us in the long run.
Scottie, you had a moment there where you kind of flexed after one of your buckets. What was that moment like, and sort of what kind of message were you trying to send there?
Flex after one buckets, I probably flex after a couple of them, but I don't know which one. Which one you talking about? I flexed after yacht bucket too. Just trying to create energy for our team. I'm always gonna try to create as much energy as we can, and it just helps our team go the right way.
Darko was saying he's seeing you start to manipulate the game. Where do you feel like you're at in that process, and just controlling the pace of the game?
This game, you got to find those advantages. Wherever the advantage is out there on the floor, you got to take those advantages, and you got to exploit them. So being able to just find those, today the pick and roll was working great today with me and Yak. So just trying to find those advantages with Yak and how I'm able to get downhill and find him on the roll sometimes. And, it's working really great. But that's all the game's going to come down to, especially fourth quarter. That's when everything needs to happen. Find those advantages and exploit them in those moments. And that's what the game's going to come down to at the end of the day.
You mentioned how great the chemistry has been. What role has Darko played in helping instill that culture for you guys?
He's been at it since day one, trying to build this team chemistry and just trying to get us to do things together. So he's did a great job of being able to build this team to where it's at, chemistry-wise, and being able for us to be so close. He plays a huge part of that. He doesn't get the enough credit that he deserves, but he's been trying to keep us connected so well together, no matter through the ups and downs. We don't really see those downs. We just see as a progression of keep getting better and how we're gonna build off of it. So he's been a really important in it.
Okay, before we get to Darko, I wanna just do something, and this is in honor of Scottie and RJ having probably one of their best games combined. And I just want to do something. It's going to take 5-6 minutes. To those of you who've seen it, it's a nice little, let's call it, it's a nice little flashback. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's going to be a nice, really good treat for you. It's the most popular video on our channel's history. Check this out. Became teammates in Toronto, 5 years before they became teammates in Toronto, RJ Barrett and Scottie Barnes were two of the most decorated high school basketball players of all time. In fact, RJ played his final high school game ever against Scottie Barnes, and the results were not what you might expect. First, let's paint a picture. This is RJ Barrett, the Maple Mamba, a Canadian superhero who was a senior at Montverde, committed to playing at Duke, son of Canadian basketball royalty Rowan Barrett, the American Family Insurance All-USA Player of the Year, Naismith Player of the Year, Gatorade Player of the Year, and Morgan Wootten Player of the Year. He had a big resume. He was the #1 ranked player in the nation, playing for the #1 ranked team in the nation, flanked by a talented backcourt duo of Michael DeVoe and Andrew Nembhard. RJ's Montverde team was stacked from top to bottom. Head coach Kevin Boyle, who coached the Eagles with players such as Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, opined at the time that the 17-18 Montverde Eagles might be his most talented team ever. On the other hand, you had Scottie Barnes and Vernon Carey leading the university school, a team which had started out the season unranked but had risen to third throughout a dominant campaign by Barnes and Carey. Scottie's Sharks had beaten the #2 ranked Oak Hill, while Barrett's Eagles had bested Findlay Prep to set up an all-Florida national championship. If people didn't know who Scottie was at the start of the year, they were certainly about to find out. First, a quick word from our sponsor, the Pendance Film Festival.
Next game with his versatility and competitiveness, he signed with Duke, and he's with Tara Petrolino right now.
Here we are with University's Vernon Carey Jr. and Vernon. Not many people expected University to be here. What does this moment feel like for you?
We're just taking it all in. We're just trying to finish it.
A monster and has been here at the Geico Nationals.
Montverde unbeaten on the season, wearing the gray University school game the last 2 years.
6'7" with great length. The ability to push, and his greatest asset, to deliver the rock.
By halftime, an Andrew Nembhard layup pushed it to 35-26. Halftime was not pretty. Barnes started out the third quarter by hitting a corner three. As Raptor fans know today, Scottie Barnes is known for dominant second halves, and he was not about to let his team lose. On the next play, just seconds later, Barrett showed some stage presence, hitting a three of his own. Not to be bested, the duel was on. Barnes went down the other way to hit a layup. Unfortunately for him, he came down awkwardly on a teammate's foot. Ever the warrior, he stayed in the game. He didn't quit, but with Barnes now favoring his ankle and the score 31-38, the Eagles sensed blood. Closing out the third quarter, the score had ballooned to 41-59 before Scottie drew a triple team and found Vernon Carey open for a three. The fourth quarter was more of the same, but Scottie did not go down without getting a technical and some few choice words in for Barrett.
Whether he's 4 for 10 or 9 for 10, whether his team has a lead or they're behind. And he has that special trait to give it his all the time. Sounds simple, but I don't see a lot of guys that play hard every game, every possession.
The Maple Mamba ended his high school basketball career with a national championship, completing a resume which already included a gold medal with Canada for the U17 FIBA Championships. The commentators, who were clearly familiar with both players, spent most of the fourth quarter commending Scottie's effort in the loss, painting a very bright picture of his future. Barrett was the better player on the better team that day, and before Zion Williamson and Ja Morant blew up, he was the projected #1 pick in the following year's draft. And ironically, it was Scottie Barnes himself who transferred to Montverde to effectively replace RJ's vacant spot in the front court with Cade Cunningham to form what many call the greatest high school basketball team of all time. Barnes and Barrett have a complicated history. They would both go on to have impressive collegiate careers, and both would go on to become top 5 picks in the NBA, Barnes going 4th to the Raptors and RJ going 3rd to the Knicks. Over the years, they've spent time guarding each other, and RJ even had this huge buzzer-beating dunk over Scottie Barnes less than a year ago to send the Knicks to overtime. Just a year later, they're teammates for RJ's hometown Toronto Raptors, after the Raptors traded Scottie's best friend on the team, OG Anunoby. Scottie, for his part, doesn't completely seem to be over it.
I think that defense that he plays is something like, I had a similar teammate that had the same type of defense. Those guys, they're unselfish. They're playing hard each and every single game, locking into our game plans. They're helping out really well. Those guys can score the ball really well. They're playing great on the defensive end, and we're getting our flow really well.
Iron sharpens iron. 2 former McDonald's All-Americans, gold medalists, prep school legends, both of whom have taken their share of media backlash. Both have had highs and lows. RJ Barrett was seen by many Knicks fans as a bust, and Scottie Barnes, after winning Rookie of the Year and becoming a media darling, spent most of the 2022-2023 season becoming the media's whipping boy for a disappointing season north of the border. RJ and Scottie still have bright futures and a lot to prove in the NBA, and alongside 24-year-old sharpshooter Emmanuel Quickley, the trio could become the building blocks for the Raptors' next championship, sparking We the North, Part 2. Prophecy is coming true. I would say the prophecy is coming true. And RJ Barrett has exceeded my wildest expectations with the Raptors. I hope that video wasn't super choppy, but if you are curious to watch that video in proper light, it's called Scottie and RJ Have a Beefy History, and it's on our channel page. You can definitely watch it. I enjoy making videos like that. I also enjoy making videos like this. And we're gonna get to Darko Rajakovic because I have a feeling he's got a lot of really interesting things to say. But before we get to Darko Rajakovic, which is going to be right, I want to take a 3-minute sidebar to address something, and I think that it's an important thing to address. So, Clutch Stadium saying, "Damn, 243K." Yes. Why can't more videos be like that? Okay, so this is what I want to address. Okay, never been blocked by a Raptor before, so this was new for me, and it largely started from a post in which I asked, "Is 45 cooking?" because he had a really nice take, and Davion Muse, which is I guess a Muse account, y'all know, familiar with Muse accounts, said, "Nah, don't post him. You're weird," likely pointing to the fact that I have had a couple of pretty negative things to say about Davion Mitchell, specifically that I don't think that he's going to be in the NBA next year, that I think that his offense is a glaring issue, et cetera, et cetera. So I just want to show y'all something that might be a little bit telling on this, because in conjunction with the Rue thing, actually, I'm gonna challenge you guys to do it for yourselves. I'm going to challenge you to, if you're curious to see how balanced or imbalanced I've been, I'll challenge you to look through Pensar Basketball posts and just search the word Davion and see how positive and negative I've been. Unfortunately, social media is a really weird thing where everything is distorted. First of all, everyone online has an equal view, right? Everyone comments, everyone has an opinion, everyone thinks they're an expert. Everyone thinks they're an expert on Davion, everyone thinks they're an expert on basketball, everyone thinks they're an expert on me and what my intentions are and who I hate or who I don't hate. And it's particularly weird for me to hear that I hate a player that I absolutely have no hatred for in my heart. I don't hate. Why would I waste my time hating a player that I don't even know? That's stupid. I don't even hate people that I do know. Actually, it took a long time to get to that point, but I don't hate anybody. I really don't. I genuinely don't. There are people who have wronged me throughout my life where I'm like, I got zero hate for you because I got no energy to. I got to produce. You know what I mean? Productive people don't waste time hating people. Now, it's very, very important for me to identify and correctly state why the Davion coverage has been what it's been, why the Dennis Schroeder coverage was what it was, why the Fred VanVleet coverage was what it was. And largely it stems down to one critical thing. I don't want people to lose perspective of what is happening. My job as a content creator has always been to tell the truth. As one important thing that this channel is the sanctity of this community depends on my willingness to tell the inconvenient truth as I see it. Am I always right? Hell no. I'm going to be wrong a lot. I'm going to say a guy is going to work out and maybe he's not going to work out at some point. But I have to tell you that I think Yves Missi is a good player in the pre-draft cycle. I have to tell you that I think Jordan Hawkins is a good idea. I have to tell you that the media is wrong about Scottie Barnes and his upside projections. And I have to tell you that they're wrong about Pascal Siakam being a superstar. I have to do this because I feel like narratives run amok, right? Someone says something, they say it over and over again. It starts to sound pretty true. And then we end up in a situation where a player is being maligned for not being a superstar when they weren't really one to begin with. And now there's this entire toxic backlash. Vince Carter was never Michael Jordan. He should have never been marketed as Michael Jordan. He was a very, very good basketball player, and he was never really allowed to be Vince Carter. That was a very early sign for me. Andrea Bargnani was another player that became a bit of a whipping boy for this fan base, and I don't necessarily think he was as bad as people really wanted to make him out to be, nor was he as good as some people wanted to make him out to be, myself included. But I think that it was always a lesson learned of we need more perspective, more truth, more insight, more basketball knowledge. I've spent a lot of time obsessively learning about the game of basketball. It's a real passion of mine. And I believe that the growth of this channel is not because I am some overly negative, clickbaity content creator, but rather because I have managed to establish a sense of trust with you that good, bad, or indifferent, I'm always going to tell you how I feel. I told you this summer that I don't believe that this team is bad enough to tank. Like, I think that they're too good to tank. I told you that I believe that Scottie Barnes was going to take a superstar jump. You can check through our channel history. You can check through our lives. I don't delete lives, so you can just go see it. I may have clipped a couple lives because they got a little bit, someone went out of pocket. But that entire Rue conversation and this entire backlash where people are just DMing me saying like, or commenting like, you're a hater. You've always hated. You hate RJ. You hate this person. You hate that person. It's so weird and overwhelming to me because it's like, obviously somebody believes this. Now, I think reputations precede us. I really do. I think when you have been sort of accused of something like you hate Fred VanVleet, that was the initial, claim to fame is like, that's the guy who hates Fred VanVleet. And at that point, I didn't fight it too much. I didn't care too much because I was literally going out day after day, showing low light film of him, ignoring Scottie, ignoring his teammates, talking about the toxic culture of this team. I called out the toxicity in the Toronto Raptors culture in 2021. It wasn't until 2023 that Masai Ujiri addressed it. 2023 trade deadline was when he addressed it. A full 2 years later, or so I want to say 18 months later, 20 months after I had initially brought it up. But why do you think he had to address it? Because this is powerful. What we do here is powerful. You know what I mean? The conversation around Davion Mitchell, if not left unchecked, if left unchecked, will be just up to Forbes and Sports Illustrated and Raptors Republic to create the narrative around Davion. I cannot let this stand. I cannot let that stand. Just like I couldn't let those very same people paint Scottie as some sort of malcontent, not hardworking, bullshit teammate, immature guy in second year. I personally, in good conscience, cannot allow the narrative to stand unchecked that Davion Mitchell is the sixth man of the year who's worth $10 million. It's never been about Davion. Understand me when I say this. My issue was never Fred. It was how Fred was covered. Because when you call a guy a great leader, and I know he's not doing a great job leading, that leads people to believe that the people he's leading are idiots, that they are at fault, that it's Malachi and Scottie and Delano, it's their fault that they're not being led by this generational leader. And when you spin it, I have to push back. It's a compulsion of mine. But thankfully, that's why I created this channel. So if I'm not doing that, then I'm not doing this at all. If you want to construe it as hate, that's what I have an issue with. Now, I realized something 2 days ago. I have spent a lot of my life fighting. I have fought tooth and nail. I argue constantly. I'm talking away from the panel and the debate show. I argue so much. I used to argue with my mom. I used to argue with my dad. I used to argue with my aunt. I used to argue with my friends. I am an argumentative person. I am a very disagreeable person. I argue with callers. I argue with the media. I'll argue with just about anybody. I'll argue with strangers. It's a very unlikable quality, and I'm very well aware of it. I also don't have the tone of a likable person. I say things very dry to the point where if I didn't know me, I would hate me too. So don't worry. Anyone out there hate watching, I get you. I feel you. I'm very real with myself. I know I lack the smile and the charisma and the charm, and I just kind of say things very bluntly. And I know that that's not going to ever endear me to the vast majority of people. The people who are here are almost here in spite of my lack of charm and my lack of tact and my lack of personality. And I understand all of that too. But I know my shit when it comes to basketball. And any person in the world who has put as much time into what I do will walk into every situation with that level of confidence. It's not hubris. It's when I say that I know more about basketball than a certain person, I don't believe that that's arrogance. It would be arrogance if it was not backed up by hours and hours of work. When I go on the panel, prior to going on the panel, I don't scale the box score. I wake up at 6 a.m. and I watch those games so that when we're talking about it, even if I talk about it for 4 minutes, that I know exactly what game I'm talking about, exactly what team I'm talking about. That's work. And when you don't do that work and I do that work, yeah, I'm going to come at you a little bit different because I don't respect you. And that's the difference. It's not arrogance. I respect people who do the work. And I respect people who keep things respectful. What I realized is that me being argumentative is actually a coping mechanism. And I learned this yesterday. I'm gonna just give a shout out to the Fourth Quarter Gang. To all of you who are not familiar with the Fourth Quarter Gang, the Fourth Quarter Gang is something that we've done in this community right here. We together, not me, not you, all of us are trying to finish out the year strong as opposed to trying to set our goals on January 1st. We're trying to meet our goals on January 1st. And part of that comes down to self-reflection and understanding why. Whenever you have a compulsive need for something and it's not necessarily helping your life, me being argumentative online and is wasting my time, is probably not making me look very good. So I had to understand what is my compulsive need for this. And the truth is that I used to argue when I was younger because I lacked the power to change my life. I would argue I'd argue with my mother. I'd argue with my stepdad. I'd argue with people. I would argue with my teachers. I would argue with my family because I didn't have the power at that moment as a child to change my life. And so I just became addicted to this idea that arguing is actually productive. It's not. In some cases, it is. In some cases, it is. But in very many cases, it is not. Arguing with Rue about who is better between Scottie Barnes and RJ Barrett is not productive. It's not productive because it lowers my vibration and frankly wastes everyone's time. Arguing with people about whether or not Davion Mitchell will be in the league next year online or whether I'm a hater is not productive because nothing I'm going to do is going to change your mind. If you tell me that half my Davion posts are negative and I prove to you, demonstrate. No, someone said all your posts are negative. You do nothing but hate on the guy. I was like, okay. So I showed them the evidence. I said, search Davion through the thing and see how many times I've complimented this guy. Now, some of you know that. Some of you have even stuck up for me and be like, yo, he's fair about him. He's saying, but can you convince a person who only sees my negative posts because those are the ones that blow up that I'm not, you know what I mean? So sometimes it becomes a bit of a self-looking glass situation as well, where someone keeps telling you you're a hater of a certain player and then you start to actually despise that player. I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen again because I feel like that happened a little bit with Fred VanVleet and I don't want that to happen again. I want fair analysis across the board. I want us to be clear about who players are. I don't want us to gas players up into something that they're not. I've never wanted to do that. Jakob has been awesome this year. I've been very impressed with him. He's not a top 10 player. He's not a top 10 player at his position when the league is healthy. So if you're going to tell me he's a top 10 player, he's a top 10 center, et cetera, I'm going to point to his defense so that we can have a balanced discussion. For me, the goal is not to be your friend. The goal is not to make you happy. The goal is to inform you on the correct perspective and to be as correct as humanly possible because I am a human and I am prone to err. However, what I learned as a child was that arguing was my coping strategy. What I've learned as an adult is that it is a replacement for action. People who lack the will to act will often argue. People who lack the power to act will often argue because it is a replacement. It's like rumination. When you lose a parent, like I lost a parent when I was younger, I lost both my parents. I ruminated for months and months on the events that led up to it, on the conversations that we had. Why did I do that? Partially because it helps us feel better. Because we think if we could just think about it better, when you get fired, when you get dumped, if someone cheats on you, what do? You sit there for 6 months and you think about it. This is not productive for the most part. It's good to grieve, but it's not good to ruminate. Arguing sometimes with people who are not willing to engage in proper debate is rumination, and it's unproductive as fuck. Trying to prove to people who hate you why you're not someone worth hating is a completely big waste of your time. I spent a lot of time thinking yesterday if I should engage with certain people. I decided that the block feature was best. I think you should block out people who don't bring productivity into your life, don't bring truth to your life. I think first, in order to do that, though, you need to identify what the fuck it is you value in the first place. If you want hate in your life, then by all means, follow hateful people all the time. Follow negative people. But if you want positivity in your life and all you do is, sit around negative people, well, your life is going to be in constant flux and you're going to be in a very, very toxic situation. There's another thing I'll share with you, fourth quarter gang, as my final bit, and then we'll get to Darko Rajakovic because I didn't want to leave this right to the end, but I also didn't want to bombard the first half of the show with this, is that when you are unable to walk away from anything, you will inevitably end up in a dependency, which will inevitably lead to toxicity. If you're in a relationship with a person who does not respect your boundaries, even if you're in a conversation with a person who does not respect your boundaries, you must learn to walk away. You must say nothing more can be achieved here, and you must be comfortable with walking away. The smartest, best, most successful people I know are very, very good at saying no. You may not be really good at saying no because you may not trust your instincts, because something weird happens to us when we're children. When we were children and maybe we weren't raised right, it's not blasting your parents or whatever. I'm just saying a lot of us didn't get the right information when we were children. We wired the wrong messages together. A lot of us actually learned that our feelings don't actually matter, that our instincts don't matter. And so life has sort of taught you to go away from your instincts and over rationalize everything. Sometimes you just want to quit your job and you're like, but I can't because rationale A, B, C. Sometimes it's good to not over rationalize everything. Sometimes you need to walk away from a situation. You can't find the rationale to do it, but you know that every single time you talk to this person, you literally feel sick. You need to walk away. Trust your instincts. And the final thing I'll say about this, and I hope that this has been meaningful and a good message for some of you. Every time you say no to a person trampling on you, disrespecting you, talking over you, being rude to you, lying on your name, anytime you tell a person no, you are actually saying yes to something else. Have you ever thought of it that way? Right? Have you thought of it that way? When you say no to one job, what are you really saying? I'm holding out for a better job. You may not be in a position to say no to a job, but that's also a construct of your rationalization. See my point? It's not intuitive. Life is not intuitive. It's actually quite counterintuitive. Sometimes you have to say no when your every impulse is saying yes, because your impulses have been so dulled over time that you don't even know how to say no. So you gotta get comfortable with saying no. You gotta get comfortable blocking people. Was it fun to block a longtime channel member who's in every single chat and I know is, come rain or shine, 3 a.m., 3 p.m., Rue is always here. Is that comfortable to have so many disagreements with the person? Just be like, I don't want to have every single chat devolve into this RJ Scottie bullshit where today, instead of celebrating a really good game for Scottie, we have to spend, 2 hours because Rue wants to talk about his 7 turnovers. I don't think that's productive for anybody. Sometimes you got to cut your losses. Be like, nice to know you, got to walk away. It's the same thing with relationships, same thing with marriages, same thing with family. Sometimes you have a brother's a fucking piece of shit. Okay, sorry. Might be blood. He's a piece of shit. You got to walk away, man. You got to walk away. This brother cannot ruin your whole life. Okay, so Learn to trust your instincts. All right, let's get to Darko Rajakovic.
Your team really executed well and closed out a game. You seeing growth in that aspect of the game?
Definitely yes. Indiana, and we talked about it before the game, that's a tough team to play against. Just their ability to create threes off the dribble, just their ability to run in transition. They're scoring bunches. And, if you have a 15-point lead, you might think, oh, we're safe. And then very quickly you learn that it's bang, bang, that it's the game can take.
Who's Chuck? Chuck Swirsky? Are we talking Chuck Swirsky or Charles Barkley? Yo, Barkley, awesome, man. I'm glad. He wasn't on his top 15 last year, but I'm very, very happy to hear that.
Different course. I thought that in the fourth quarter when they went on the run, we hit a timeout and just said, all we got to do is one possession at a time. We got to really focus on us, how we're executing on offensive end and defensive end. I thought that our execution down the stretch in the last 4 or 5 minutes was really, really good. So I think we were getting better in that aspect.
What are you seeing from Scottie in that game? Finishing games with the ball in his hand, making all the right decisions? Are you seeing?
Scottie tonight, he did score 35 points, but for me, much more important than that is the tone that he's setting for the team. The poise that he's playing with, how he's picking up his teammates, the way he's talking, the way he's learning to manipulate the game. He's becoming much, much better in the half-court setting to attack, to touch the paint, to score. I thought that he was outstanding tonight. I wish that one of his turnovers ended up as assist. That would look even better on the box score.
What about his defense do you think has been different this season? It seems like he's picked it up a notch on the defensive end compared to last year.
He was always very intense. I think he's just maturing as a player, knowing tendencies, knowing what players are doing, getting more comfortable inside our schemes as well. We as a team, we try to be very aggressive, and that's what Scottie wants to do. That's for me as a coach, it's a true blessing when your best player is really embracing that style of defense, and that makes everybody else to step up a notch defensively as well.
Obviously, RJ was carrying a big workload, playing really well when Scottie was out, and he hasn't really missed a beat. How are you seeing those two playing off of each other right now?
I think they're really complementing each other. Both of them capable to play on the ball, both of them more than capable of playing off the ball. I thought that they did a really good job offensively, and I'm always gonna be the first one to praise them when they do good stuff. I still expect more from them, execution-wise, taking care of the ball when we need it. Again tonight, big number of turnovers, and we need to continue watching film and studying and trying to clean that up, because that's going to really unlock a lot for us.
To my eye, it looked like Scottie's best and most resilient driving game. As far as the decisions he made, rerouting driving angles, using rescreening, what did you think he did best to really allow himself to flourish in that?
I got to watch more on the film to really dive into detail, but we're talking a lot about him playing lower, being more explosive when he decides to go, and just having two or three things in his mind when he's attacking. And he's such an amazing instinctual player that he's going to find opportunities. And I thought that he did a really good job today attacking with that force and then just reading what defense is giving you. And I thought that he played really well.
Rick Carlisle said before the game that Jakob was one of the most underrated players in the league. What do you make of that comment and sort of his role on the team so far this year?
Well, I have a huge respect for Jakob and what he brings to the team. I think he's outstanding teammate, outstanding competitor, and he's proving it night in and night out that he's playing really high-level basketball this year.
You have these two primary guys combined for 12 turnovers as well as they played. How are you it's happened a few times, how are you kind of working through that are you just kind of living with that because you want the ball in RJ and Scottie's hands so much, or is it sort of things that need to be fixed?
I think some of those are really coming from good plays. Some of those are really coming from trying to find a teammate, trying to make a pass, and I don't want them to be afraid on the court at any point of time. I want them to be aggressive, and to learn through that experience. And if you talk to both of them, they're going to be the first one to be aware of it, and they are aware that they need to grow. And I have no doubt that they will be able to clean it up and improve.
Your three-point shooting cooled off in the second half. What happened? Like, where did it go wrong?
Somebody turned on the AC. It was cold. I mean, that's game of basketball. You get hot stretches, and then you get those moments when the ball is not going through the hoop. But those are the moments that you gotta show resilience and do all other stuff that affect winning. Is that deflection? Is that box out and rebound? Is that executing the offense the way we need? Like all of those little things, impact the game. And we ended up shooting at the end 39% from the three-point line. If you're going to shoot that well every single night, I'll take it right away.
Regarding Ochai, even in his years in Utah, and even almost going back to Kansas, he's never had this. He's shooting like 47% from three on 4 attempts a game. What do you think? What do you think is the key? Like, I know you guys have worked on stuff, but what do you think is translating?
A lot of work that he's putting in. There is no magic to it. When you put the work in, when you believe in what you're doing, and your teammates believe in you, it's amazing. And all of his teammates, every time that he's getting opportunities to shoot the ball, and if he misses a shot, everybody's like really encouraging him to continue shooting. And that's simple as that. Put the work in.
Okay, cool. I got good news for y'all. So I realized that some of these streams have been a little bit laggy, and part of that is because my iMac died, and I've been working off my girlfriend's close to death MacBook. So while it has been a massive improvement, I decided to do something very cool for myself yesterday, follow my own advice. We had a really good month. Thanks to all the super chats and the e-transfers. I also want to give a quick shout out to a couple e-transfers for today. So Kareem, thank you very much for your $10 e-transfer. And Ron, thank you for your $20 e-transfer. And there was one more. I'm so sorry. Adam, thank you so much for your $20 super chat e-transfer. Ron, no, not that Ron, different Ron. So because we had a pretty good month, I said, you know what? The best content creators, the ones that I respect, always invest back into themselves. And if y'all remember, I had a proper webcam on my Amazon wish list, and I just stopped posting about it because it was a very expensive webcam. And I just figured, since y'all supported this community so much, that I owe it to you to have more professional streams. So starting from Thursday, which will be the OKC game, provided everything shows up tomorrow, I will set myself up to have more professional streams. So for a very long time, I've gotten a bit of a jolly out of the fact that I've been able to successfully beat out most of my competition. And I don't need to get into the names of the competition. I'm a very competitive person. I played competitive sports my whole life. So yes, I'm a very competitive person, and I just got a kick out of it that I just imagined them losing their minds. Like, how is this person beating us on this grainy ass camera? Well, now, we are ready to move on past the grainy ass camera stage of our iteration. And we're ready to get into, the proper lighting setup stage of our YouTube journey as we progress forward to hopefully 20,000 subscribers. I am at a much better place mentally, peacefully. I feel way less bothered by things that I used to feel bothered by. And I really do believe that I am on the verge of exiting this year how I want to. And I hope that you will. That's funny. I promise you this is not a filter. The basement filter off. That's hilarious. Oh, no more grainy cameras? Yeah. So I ended up on Cyber Monday / Black Friday, ended up getting this like really good camera. Okay, cool. And I'm gonna set up like all the lights and everything. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to be a proper podcaster. You know what I mean? And yeah, I just want to. I just sincerely want to thank this community for all the support that you've given me, for being patient with me. I'm not always the easiest person to listen to when I get heated or whatever. Last live probably was not super fun to listen to, that whole exchange with the call in bullshit. Like fuck, I'm sick and tired of you, whatever. But I always respected the people in my life who were real. You know, like the people who they got angry, but they apologize. I don't like veneers. I don't like curated. I don't like beauty filters. I don't like that stuff. So for me, it's like, if you're not going to do it that way, then I don't want to do it at all. So we keep it real here. Good, bad, ugly. That's just how we do it. And it's always going to be that way. It's always going to be that way. And I'm just like, I'm at a point now where I'm like, yo, like sports betting's taking over every fucking facet of the sport. And I hate it. So now I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, how do I go about doing this in a way? How do I voice my resentment for this thing without pissing off my employers, without pissing off everybody, without alienating people? You know what I mean? Like even the politics, like the federal election in 2025. Like I've got a dog in this race. I know who I want to win. Will I have the courage to voice it at that time? Will I have the courage to say this is what I want to do? I don't know. These are questions that I need to ask myself. But one thing I will tell you, I'm never going to tell you I'm supporting someone that I'm not. You know what I mean? So that's it. You got the Sony ZV? No, I didn't. I got something called an ObSpot. I think it's called an ObSpot camera. It's funny because I actually have a film camera. I'm a filmmaker. I don't know if y'all know this, but I'm like a cinematographer. And it's funny because people who are my clients, and they'll watch one of these videos and they'll be like, I can't believe I paid this guy like $6,000 to shoot my wedding. I can't believe that I paid this guy. You know what I mean? He can barely light himself, but that's always been me. Been wanting to comment on grainy talking head. Yo, this camera is way less grainy than the previous one. If I went to the 2011 Mac, y'all would see real grain, for real. But yes, thank you so much for sticking with us. Big win for the Raptors. Big test on Thursday. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna record a ton of video. I'm gonna clear out my fucking phone for like 40 gigs, and I'm just recording the whole goddamn game. Maybe I don't want to record the whole goddamn game. I want to record like certain things. Obviously, there's no replays and there's no like rewinds in real life. So like, if you're not catching it, you miss it, right? So that's a tough thing. So I'm gonna record a lot. I'm gonna be sitting pretty close. I can't wait. It's gonna be really fun. And I've never seen Shai Gilgeous-Alexander live. That's really weird to me to say. I had every opportunity to watch him when he was younger, and I didn't. And now I get to watch Shai, Lou Dort, Chris Boucher, and RJ Barrett in the same game. It's like basically Canada night. You know what I mean? And it's gonna be really cool. And yeah, really looking forward to that game. And also very, very cool for Cason Wallace of the OKC Thunder and Jacoby Walter have the same trainer. They train together in the off season. So it's going to be really, really fun. If Grady does not come back against OKC, that Cason is going to see some time on Jacoby. That's going to be really cool and probably a really, really big moment for Eric. So that's pretty cool. Anyways, I'll catch you guys later. It's night time for me, and big win over the Indiana Pacers. I'm very, very glad we did not piss it away late. Big game for Scottie Barnes. My favorite player just had his career high. That's huge. I do want to answer the questions in the super chats before we go. This is a quick reminder. These are the super chats that were said. We already got it. Bueno Kitty with this question. I flagged it. I started. Bruce for 8 million or Davion for 8 million? Bruce. Armin, Rob, rate your 5 favorite Raptors of all time. Scottie, Vince, Kawhi, Kyle. I don't know who the fifth one is. Anthony Parker, Marc Gasol, someone like that. No, what am I talking about? OG number 5. My bad. Darko called him the face of the league. I don't know why I started that, but thank you. Davion blocked Rob. Already talked about it. I think he is better than Hero and Siakam. I don't know about that. I think Tyler Hero is probably more valuable around the league. Rob, will you give away a 2025 pick and a player for Herb Jones? That's a good question. If it's like the 16th pick or the 15th pick, maybe. If it's like the 8th pick or the 7th pick, probably not. If Jonte legally changed his name, would he come back? No. Okay. But yes. TJ Ford. No. Kyle, OG, Barnes, Powell, Lorenzo Brown. Damn. Surprised we didn't see a Hito Turkoglu sighting here. Anyways, talk to you guys later. Have a great one. Thank you for supporting Pensare Basketball, and please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. It means a lot.